screen. We'll show you the character sheets, we'll show you the dice rolls, we'll show you the maps and the overlays, such as they exist, but by the nature of Open Dice Night, even less than usual. But by and large, if you need to have this in podcast mode while you do other things, that's fine. Leave it to us to make the story play out behind your eyes in what's called the theater of the mind. With that in mind, we're going to put a marker here for our awesome archive team, let them know we're getting into the game. We're going to tab over to this screen, and real talk, I almost tabbed over to my PS4 screen. Whoops. And I'm going to give the mic back to Say, and we're going to get started. Say, set the scene for us.
All right, awesome. So, yeah, I think that our session tonight of The City That Never Sleeps will actually start with a large and somewhat imposing hall of sorts that seems to be like, you know, almost like an entire separate world from what lies outside the urban sprawl of Ravnica. So I think that we zoom in on a window in a large building that doesn't seem to quite match up with the inside of it, as it what appears to be a kind of similar to a kind of studio flat apartment window sort of deal, opens up into a large medieval style hall with pillars on all sides, um, and what looks like crests engraved on marble walls, each of them representing the 10 guilds of Ravnica. Uh, the eye, the eye of with the pyramid of knowledge inside of it that represents Azorius. The dark and yet somewhat holy son of Orzhov, the ever-growing luminescent tree of Simic, and all such other crests amongst them. And for each of these crests that are engraved in the wall, they seem to correspond to a seat at a large, like, table that makes up the majority of the room, set in the center, more or less, with a each of the seats, uh, being well furnished, well crafted, very very much reminiscent of a count of a legal meeting or some sort of council. And in fact, that is exactly what is going on, as what seems like 10 seats are filled, um, but not all of them with people. Some of them have signs with the crests representing their given guild on them, in place of a person seated, but the majority of them seem to be filled. And starting from the head of the table, for the Izzet League, there seems to be a calm, blue-skinned, uh, blue-skinned figure of a Dalkin, who seems to have grown out some small bit of some wispy bit of facial hair from his chin, and seems to uh, he seems to kind of look about the room with a measured gaze, silently gauging the rest of the seated people. And beside him, going clockwise on the right, is the seated official for the hold on, let me check my notes. For the Boros. Without much delay, our Boros representative for tonight, Hawk, could you please describe for us for a second what Andros Efru looks like?
Andros Ifu is a rather. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Sorry, the word escaped my mind. He's not dressed up in obvious armor like most of the Boros Legion is, instead, opting for more plain clothing, but not ratty or anything by any stretch, certainly not plate mail.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of the other Boros Legion, he only carries around a rather small sword, and yet he's clearly well built in terms of musculature.
What is he?
Not overly. Sorry, go ahead.
What is he?
He is a loxodon. He is basically a man elephant.
Oh, he's a large lad.
He is.
Yes. Although oddly enough, according to D&D, he's still medium sized. So wrap your mind around that.
I fail and refuse to do so. Anyway.
Right. So yeah, the Loxodon cuts an imposing figure seated in the Boros seat, representing the rising sun of his own faction, with the fist clenched in the center, and beside him is another figure seated in front of the pyramid of knowledge with the eye in the center, representing the Azorius in this particular assembly. Our Azorius representative for tonight, Kit, if you could, please describe what Clarissa looks like.
I would say Clarissa is imposing for a human, but sitting beside of a Loxodon, that's kind of impossible. Clarissa is tall. She's like 6'6", human, long blonde hair. Her helmet is resting on her lap politely in front of her. She's wearing heavy armor with the Azorius logo on it, complete with tabard and cape, pauldrons. She has a big shield, a big kite shield resting beside her chair with the symbol of the Azorius on it. She is the picture of an Azorius soldier of relative rank. She's not going to be calling down the Boros Angels, but she's in her Class A's uniform, so to say. That being said, because she's a human and humans have expressive faces and she is an Azorius, I will say that she is not very happy sharing the table with some individuals here.
Bureaucracy get in the way of justice.
I will not speak for whomstever's at the table, but I dare say there is a few give me a reason glances cast at the Rakdos representative.
Well, actually, since you pointed it out, the Rakdos seat appears to be empty. Instead, there is a sign with the crest engraved on it, placed in the center of the seat to represent the general absence of a representative for this particular.
I mean, that's fine. There's like 4 other guilds that are opposed to the Azorius, so
basically casting give me a reason glances at whoever the fuck looks her way that's from those 4 guilds.
Yeah, but Orzhov, Rakdos, Gruul, and I feel like she's a little bit nicer to Golgari than most Azorius, but she's probably glaring at the House Demir representative if there is one, which I doubt.
The House Demir is also empty.
Yeah. So Orzhov and Gruul are getting 4 guilds worth of glares.
Well, it's funny you say that, because on Clarissa's left, actually, representing the dark holy son of Ordrov.
Man, whoever planned this party did not have any foresight putting the Orzhov beside the Azorians. Fucking hell.
Yeah,
Right,
really.
mutations go on. They follow all the laws.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the Ordrov.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. All right. So our Ordrov representative for tonight in this assembly, if you could please describe yourself, Sir Squeaky.
Casimir, I would say, is also imposing in a slightly different manner. Doesn't have to compete with a Loxodon at least.
Mm.
But also human looking, although something a bit off. Definitely a lot paler than most humans. With long silver hair. Uh, also somewhat tall, for a little over 6 foot. Dressed in the fine stately garb of an Orsov advocist with the holy symbols on it. Um, Definitely looks like they're used to being in uh, formal situations like this, but not terribly happy to be in the presence of some of the people at the table either.
Understandable, of course. A meeting of the 10 guilds is generally not all sunshine and roses.
More to the point, forgive me for interrupting when it's not my description, but a meeting of the 10 guilds belies the guild pact. Is Jace in this room?
No, as a matter of fact, he's not.
Oh yeah, Clarissa's tense as fuck then. Is there a seat for him?
I would say that in this particular room, no, there's not a seat for the Living Guild Pact.
All right, yep, okay. This is not suspicious at all. Sorry, continue.
So, for our next representative, seated on the left of Casimir, appears to be representing the evergreen tree of Selesnya, a small elderly woman wearing what appears to be like pristine white robes, and she wears a headdress that resembles the crest of Selesnya on her head, um, and she she quietly sits there with a wistful smile on her face. It Her eyes belie that she almost like barely has presence of mind. Her eyes seem to drift from here and there. Um, Clarissa and Andros, you can actually tell immediately that the woman appears to be somewhat under the influence of something. Um, and but her garb and her overall kind of cadence, way of carrying herself, despite that, seems to be somewhat appropriate.
Question. When you say under the influence, are you talking like, something like alcohol and tobacco to where she's clearly not quite loopy and all, or is she acting like influence as in like not entirely, like, is it like influence like drugs or influence like mind control?
Influence like like drugs, like recreational, possibly marijuana, something like that, medicinal drugs. But either way, you could tell she's not all there at the current moment. And to the left of this woman, we have 3 seats in a row that appear to be empty, actually. The Rakdos, Gruel, and Demir seats are all represented by signs with the crests on them, and they all appear to be somewhat. Oh, sorry. If you could give me a second.
So what I'm hearing is the Simic is sitting by themselves, excuse me.
No, that's not right. Or at least not entirely true. On the Simics, on the Simic seats right, there appears to be a set of 3 empty chairs. But on their left, there appears to be a figure there. But before we get to describing that one, our Simic representative for tonight, Journeyman Vader, could you please describe your character?
Yes. Scylla is technically a guardian of the Civic Combine. She's wearing armor. She's a Vidalcan, so rather on the tall side, but also she looks like she has somewhat of chitinous skin and claws on her hands and feet. She is wearing a halberd on her back, and she seems rather stoic in this situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, in contrast to the rest of the room, that appears to be somewhat displeased, you could say, with their current circumstances. The Simic representative sits stoically amongst the 3 seats on her right, and the left side, which is filled by the representative of the also chitinous and mandibular crest of the Golgari, a middling to tall sized elf, with markings on their face that appears to look about the room with the similar kind of displeased, sour face, but they particularly glare at the old woman on the other side of the table that obviously does not register their gaze. And beside them, we come full circle around the table to the Izzet representative again. And
So what was the nature of this meeting? Like how did we get informed of this, if I may?
all right, that is a good precursor before the meeting itself starts. You were all informed in one way or another by contacts within your guilds that there was to be a diplomatic assembly regarding the recent somewhat tumultuous events in Ravnica that have been going on behind the scenes. Several guilds have had key officials either assassinated outright or attacked, and there are rumors of other guilds mobilizing, so to speak. Besides that, there are also several instances of what seems like economic sort of subterfuge in the pocketbooks of several guilds, and so an assembly was called by none other than the Firemind himself, which is why the Izzet representative sits at the head of the table. You've noticed.
Do we know who that is? Like that Vidalcan, do we know who that is?
The Vidalcan yourself, you don't.
I'm not a Vidalcan, I'm a human.
Oh, no, that I didn't describe it correctly. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the Vidalcan seems to be a somewhat high-ranking member of the Izzet League, but you don't necessarily know his name outright because you know that there are several like contacts in the upper echelons of the league that
Is there a chance that could be the boy himself shapeshifted?
You can never be sure with
Valid.
the Firemind, so it's hard to tell. But usually by now there would have been some sort of outburst or hint. This person seems to be a little more stoic, though you don't know if that's the Firemind just putting on an act or not.
How long have we been here?
I think that it has been about 10 minutes since you were all seated. There was evidently some time taken to wait for the representatives of the guilds that didn't show up to show up, but apparently they did not. So at this point, the meeting seems to be at a standstill, at least until the Izzet representative stands up, holding a few papers to his chest. He kind of adjusts them in the palm of his hand and clears his throat to get the room's attention.
May I request a handout to keep notes in, please?
Yeah, no worries. I can get a notebook for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can just give me a few seconds.
Keeping in character notes allows me to give my thoughts to the stream without interrupting, so it helps. Thank you. Oop, sorry, should have muted. So, to fill the silence, while you're passing these out, I have some further questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
Do we recognize anybody at this table?
I would say the Golgari representative, you know, to be a relatively notable member of their what's the secondary name of the Golgari? I forgot. Not a conclave. That's
Horde. It's called the Golgari Horde.
Horde. Yes. I like that.
Golgari Swarm.
Is it Swarm? Ah, damn it. I was so proud of that too. I was like, I remember all the guild subdivisions. Nope, I don't. Swarm.
The
Thank you.
swarm.
Thank you, Vader.
Yes. So the elf official appears to be a notable member of the Golgari Swarm. You have never dealt with them officially in the past, but you've heard that they are generally the representative for political matters when the Golgari is called to show up at court, at occasions of like uh, diplomatic assemblies, at just general political occasions and facets. Um, and the Silesian woman you don't recognize. Um, for all you know, they might have just taken a random member of the conclave from their prayer circle or whatever it is you believe they do, and just put them in a seat at this diplomatic assembly. They really don't seem to be of a mind to be here at an important sort of political event. Do I have the notes handed out for everyone now?
Yeah, I have notes.
I have them too.
Yeah, but looks like I got him too.
All right, sweet. Then yeah, I think as the Vidalcan clears his throat, he kind of speaks in a soft voice. He starts to introduce the matters of the city. Uh, Good day, ladies and gentlemen of and other representatives of the 10 guilds of Ravnica. It is unfortunate that we are meeting under such circumstances, but the Firemind felt that a diplomatic assembly would be best held in a more private setting, especially considering the nature of the current tumultuous goings on in our city. There are several instances and inquiries that we hope can be answered in this meeting um, for the purposes of trying to maintain the safety of Ravnica in accordance with Azorius and Boros mandates. We've tried to maintain the most official venue that we could, but under the short notice that the Firemind gave us, and he seems very tired at the mention of this. Like it's very obvious that there wasn't a lot of pre-planning put into this. That it was very much just a sudden kind of emergency assembly, and he goes on to explain the general ongoings the of the various services going on in the fourth precinct. Andros, you recognize this as the home of Sunhome, the main guild for Boros Legion, and their headquarters, where they take orders and do the majority of their guild's work. It is also the area where the Gruul kind of make their roaming and dwell in the streets. And that is also the main area for Nivix, the tallest tower in Ravnica, and basically the most centralized sort of the most centralized area for the Izzet League to go on with their experiments and their various contributions, either positive or negative, to the technological advancement of Ravnica. And it seems like the Izzet, from his explanation, have like he goes on a kind of a long-winded explanation of the various projects that they're undergoing, most of them sort of impractical.
Can I interrupt him?
I mean, sure, he's in the middle of his explanation, and then
he starts to dip elsewhere. Clarissa stops writing her notes and she looks up. Where's the Guild Pact?
the question kind of like startles him for a moment, and like you see him kind of like catch his pages. He his eyes dart to kind of like the side as like you try to grab his gaze, and then he looks back and he's like, well, unfortunately we could not contact the current Living Guild Pact. He appears to
The
be...
current Living Guild Pact? There's only one.
Yes. The Living Guild Pact, Jace Bellerin, appears to be busy, with other matters elsewhere.
There are matters desperate enough that you, or rather your illustrious guildmaster, has opted to call for a meeting, and you couldn't be afforded to find the Guild Pact, the representative that's supposed to speak for all of us.
Clearly, he's just wrapped up in all those ridiculous laws that have to keep going on and on about.
Yeah.
I dare say it's those laws that need to be enacted here. Clarissa, like, stands up. If you like, you can leave this interrogation to someone with skill. Immediately turns to the Orzhov. On that note,
yes,
there's rumors of embezzlement. Clarissa looks at the Orzhov. I've forgotten your name. I apologize. And says, on that note, there's rumors of embezzlement. And she goes to like grab him by the arm.
He stands up and faces her down. Says, "Well, you know very well that we keep all of our financial affairs in order. It is not our place to
Precisely, your financial affairs are in order while others are floundering. I should haul you in right now."
Oh, so we're responsible for every guild's mismanagement.
You and Rakdos, yes, largely.
I think like as the tables tumultuate, as the table starts getting a bit louder, like you hear like the Golgari representative muttering to themselves. The Selesnya woman kind of like snaps back into reality and like starts staring at the conversation between you. But is that man tries to get a word in. He's like, excuse me. If you could, this assembly is meant for the benefit of all of our factions, being at each other's throats. will not get us anywhere.
Well, it certainly seems
You
to
want
be
to
getting
benefit all the
someone
people of
somewhere.
Ravnica, and you bring destroyers into our midst.
Destroyers? From my understanding, the Orshov Syndicate is a perfectly organized group of members of the, and like you can see like he's like kind of forcing himself to say he's like of organized members of the various banks and
Yes, you are quite right, and the Izzet League always follows safety parameters to the letter, right? This is a farce.
It's a snapback, like Orphos. It's like a Loxodon snort, like kind of thing.
We follow them all the time, most of the time. And I would
And what
like.
about the lab explosion in Precinct 2 last week?
I was not informed of any lab explosion in Precinct 2 last
It made
week.
the Times.
Yeah, and several other newspapers. Anyways, it doesn't matter. There are several more pressing matters to attend to in this meeting.
I agree. There are several more pressing matters than this farce of a meeting.
Never quite saw the point of these meetings myself. It'd be much more effective just to go out there and do things.
Like you hear him audibly sigh, and he kind of like pinches his brow. Well, I suppose any pretense of this being a official and diplomatic assembly has
Without the Guild Pact.
And without almost half the guilds.
Well, truth be told, we haven't been able to find the Guild Pact. We've searched the entire plane, and we haven't been able to find the Guild Pact. That is part of the reason that we are having this meeting, that unfortunately the Rakdos, Gruul, and Emir have been, whether wise or foolish enough, have not attended. And as a result, I am having to make the announcement that the Firemind wants an investigative assembly of diplomatic representatives from each of the guilds gathered together and sent over to the various precincts of the city to investigate more into these matters of embezzlement, of what's the word? What's the other word for like supposed or like not proven?
Alleged, yeah.
Of these alleged lab explosions and other more gruesome matters.
Since precisely when was Niv Mizzet elected chairman of the Senate?
The Golgari representative kind of quietly snorts, and the Selesnya representative turns, and the Selesnya representative kind of like emphatically nods. She starts to speak up. She's like, "What? Well, I wouldn't. I would have to say that I agree with our Azorius representative in this situation. The Firemind does not speak for all of our guilds, and I don't see any reason why he should. And like the Vidalkin kind of like squints. He like pinches his brow again. Well, if you would not mind recalling the last time that the Firemind's desires were not met, we had a giant maze built in the middle of the city, and the rules that govern our plane were given to some incompetent fool in a blue cape that doesn't even bother to show up to the meeting that could decide the very fate of this entire fucking city. And like he's and like he
While I
starts
agree
going on
with
a
you, you
tirade.
are aware that what you're saying is treason.
Like he straightens up and he's like, I mean, our illustrious living guild pact has unfortunately seemed to have vacated the premises of this plane.
We are gathered here to speak for our respective guilds, yes?
That's right.
Then, as the representative of the Azoria Senate, allow me to tell you, the Firemind, and those illustrious individuals gathered here, the Senate will have this investigation well in hand. If we require assistance, we will go to the Legion or the Conclave.
While that may be the case, unfortunately, we are currently investigating matters going on in every guild, and the Azoria Senate is no exception. And he like looks down his glasses kind of at you. He like lowers them kind of, and the Golgari representative stands up, and they're like, I have to agree in this scenario. There are several different instances of the Azoria Senate committing what I would consider unlawful arrests against members of the Golgari who were participating in general cleanings of the very violent interaction between the Rakdos and Gruul that occurred last week.
Naturally, it is my duty to take your statement. Though, do you really think this is the time?
Well, what other time is there where there's going to be a representative from almost every guild that actually matters?
I can't speak for my compatriots, but technically, if you have a grievance with anyone, including the Senate, you can go to an arrestor and plead your case. And I will certainly hear you.
Okay. Well, that's...
Who's to say the Azorius aren't behind this in the first place? We all remember Augustin.
I'm certainly not saying that.
Like I think like the Vidalkin raises a brow at that statement, and he's like, right. So if we're all done airing out our grievances,
Yes, you can bring someone in with actual authority. That would be lovely.
While I would certainly love to bring in any of the guild leaders myself, I was told to make this matter discreet, so to speak. We don't want news going rampant that the guilds are cooperating, because you know exactly what that's going to do.
You want discreet and you bring in a legionnaire?
Just because we don't do all of our dealings with paperwork doesn't mean we're incompetent.
I never said you were incompetent. I said you were loud.
If you call this cooperation, I'm not sure I want to see disagreement.
Here for them.
This seems to be a delicate matter, and aside from the Gruul, the guild that best defines blunt instrument is the Legion.
And yet we always seem to be the ones that people look for when they're actually in trouble.
Yes, because you're willing to die.
I think at that point, just Orphos is like trunk going up along with rolling eyes like a Loxodon version.
Right.
like the loud sound of Andros's snorting kind of like it makes everyone at the table kind of like makes like all the representatives kind of like jump a little bit. The Vidalcan man goes silent for a moment, and then oh yeah.
I think at that point, Scylla chimes in. Like, she doesn't move at all. She just goes, "Allow the man to speak. He has knowledge. Knowledge which could benefit us."
I don't. Clarissa turns to the Simic. I don't disagree with you. What he lacks is authority and jurisdiction.
While I understand the Azoria Senate's insistence on doing things through very specific channels that
It is our divine purpose as set out by the Guild Pact.
it is exactly because of the Guild Pact right now that we are in the issues that we are facing, the issues that we are, more specifically the revisement of it. I don't see. Anyways.
Are you proposing to ignore the Guild Pact?
Not proposing to ignore anything. I'm proposing to get a diplomatic assembly underway.
And then you invited the Orzhov.
Yeah, I think like he pitches his brow, but like the Celeste new woman kind of like nods again, and she's like, honestly, don't uh, I don't see the reason why we're doing any of this. I don't think that there are any pressing matters here that are more important than us dealing with our problems ourselves. Why do we need any other guilds to help us out? We are perfectly capable of doing it ourselves.
You said yourself it was dangerous.
Wait, who do you address that
to?
to?
The Vidalcan. She's still talking to the Vidalcan.
Yeah, right. He like kind of hesitates a little bit. He knows that like at this point he's not his kind of like whatever authority he seemed to have had at the beginning of the meeting seems to kind of be slipping away. He kind of like nods hesitantly. He says, well, it's about as dangerous as any investigation into the general affairs of our various organizations might be. There's I can't speak for
anyone.
Yeah, I think that gets a rise out of like the Golgari, the Golgari representative. They start like kind of they start actually laughing, and they're like, "Yeah, you're right. This guy can't speak for anyone. I don't understand why we had a meeting headed by the Izzet League when clearly it's the Azorius that hold the most authority and jurisdiction in this city." Even though I would say that is a problem in itself, I don't see why a diplomatic assembly should be held by anyone other than them. And like the Vidalcan, like kind of like that gets a rise out of him. He starts like his brows kind of raise, and he's like, well, if they were going to do a diplomatic assembly, they should have done it weeks ago. That way we wouldn't have had the terrible loss of life that we did in Precinct 4.
Here, here.
And that, like, he raises his brow again. Am I to assume that you are speaking for your entire guild when you say that, Arresto?
None of us here have the authority to speak for our entire guild, but as the only Azorius representative, speaking personally, I agree with you both.
And I think like both of their eyes kind of widen, and like the room kind of like falls silent for a bit. Like people are very surprised at what has just been said, which could, and like everyone at the table here knows, like including Andros at Casimir and Scylla, that basically the Azorius, like any Azorius like official kind of in an official standing would, like, whether personally or not, would generally never kind of like say anything to disagree with the Azorius Senate themselves.
Mm.
They always like carry themselves like they're super as if they're representing the Senate all the time, basically, like a 24-hour job. But like apparently this Azorius representative seems to be different.
Now, am I to take it to mean that your Industrious League has information on these attacks? If so, I presume you've already taken it to the Senate and the Legion, and been met with silence.
Second, you caught me with food in my mouth.
Mark it on the board.
Yeah. He kind of sighs through his nose and nods hesitantly. Yes, more specifically, we were met with a judge that gave us
You made it to a judge. I'm impressed.
Yes, we managed to make it to a judge once I mentioned the Firemind himself. But we were met with about, I think, literally 1,000 individual papers of paperwork that were to be filled out before we could even schedule a meeting to discuss such a thing.
Do you have the evidence with you?
The paperwork itself, we needed a forklift to carry all the forms.
The evidence. Whatever it was you wanted to bring to our attention in the first place. Do you have it here, or a copy of it?
As a matter of fact, I do.
Good.
And he takes the paper.
Immediately turns to the Boros on her right and goes, I don't think it's any great stretch if the Legion and the Senate work together. And, well, this calls for a blunt instrument more than bureaucracy. Would you mind to look over his evidence?
You're lucky that I'm just happened to be bored of this entire meeting, wondering when I finally get to punch something.
Hopefully the evidence will lead you directly to it.
Just, like grabbing the evidence, giving the rest of her a bit of a stink eye.
Yeah. I think the Vidalkin, he kind of places on into like the center of the table. It's pretty far reach to the center.
He's a Vidalkin, he'll be fine.
So yeah, he's relatively long-limbed, so he manages to kind of slide it over, so that most of the table is able to see. And there are various what appear to be pictures mixed in with like ledgers, like actual like paperwork regarding like monetary finances and stuff like that. And in addition to that, there's also a couple of different forms that there's also a couple of different like what appear to be copies of contracts filled out by guilds, which are generally cooperating with guilds in like an actual guilds cooperating with each other in terms of like public service is very common. That's literally like how
Right.
things get done in Ravnica, right? So
Right.
there's several instances of those mixed in with the documents. So like yeah, there's contract forms, there's ledgers, and there's actual like what appears to be like crime scene pictures. So like who wants to look through what first?
Pointedly not touching them.
Okay.
Finally looking at the crime scene pictures.
I'll look over the
Scylla's-
Loxodon shoulder, but I won't touch them.
Scylla's looking at the ledgers.
I would also like to examine the ledgers.
Mm-hmm. So I think like yeah, like Scylla and Casimir, you each take part of the ledgers, and if you give me a second, I just want to check some stuff.
I think to fill the silence, I think when Casimir reaches for one of the ledgers, I think Clarissa, like, I don't think she says no sudden moves, but the look she gives you is like, I'm watching you, vampire. Secret PCI language.
And he just gives her a little look back, like, please, I do this every day.
Okay, yeah. So Scylla, Casimir, Andros, and Clarissa, could you all give me investigation checks, please?
Sure.
And I will actually really quickly run to the bathroom, but after that, I'll be back with more information.
Make sure you guys are rolling hidden, by the way. Andros, you're rolling public.
Okay.
Though
Where
unfortunately,
did
it's under the cogwheel. You'll see roll queries on the third box at the top, and then whisper roll to GM. You want to always whisper rolls. Although I'm not a GM, so I can't actually show the stream your rolls if we do it that way. I'll talk to Shay when we get back. See what the plan is.
I only have 2 boxes, not 3.
Well,
I got my settings and then game settings.
It's on your character sheet.
on your character sheet, friend.
You said the cog thing. I thought you meant the main board.
Yeah, the cogwheel on your character sheet. That's my bad. And there's like 6 boxes, but the third one is the one you want. It'll say NPC at the top.
Found it.
I am deeply, deeply curious about Scylla, if I'm being honest. Because the Simic Combine is true neutral, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep.
It's Simic. The Simic Combine is true neutral. The Gruul clans are chaotic neutral. I'm trying to remember. The Azorius End is lawful good. No, yeah, the Boros Legion is neutral good. No, the Celestial Conclave is neutral good. The Boros Legion is chaotic good. Simic Combine is true neutral. The Izzet League is lawful neutral. Gruul is chaotic neutral.
Is
Lawful.
it?
What?
Is it lawful?
I would argue is it's like neutral, if anything.
Yeah, but there can't be 2 guilds that are true neutral, I don't think. I think there's one for each of the alignments. I think. And I thought Simic was true neutral.
There's
It
10
is.
guilds.
I'm looking it up. Is chaotic neutral.
Is it a chaotic neutral? Okay.
Yeah, that's actually more accurate.
Gruul is also chaotic neutral.
Oh, okay. So then it doesn't apply like I thought it did. Never mind.
Well, there are still 10 guilds, so you're gonna at least have one guild overlap. Oh, 2 guilds, I guess, technically.
Fair. The Guilds of Ravnica are so interesting, though. I really like this setting.
Yeah, they really are.
For sure.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot to unpack with it.
I do apologize for playing a loud character, but I'm an Azorius paladin. I'm a cop. Like,
Cop obsessed with paperwork!
basically.
Like, I was debating saying, for someone who calls the Boros loud, you sure don't know how to stop talking.
I mean, valid. It's valid. Though, in fairness, that's the difference between the Senate and the Legion. The Legion is all action, no talk, and the Senate is all talk, no action.
Hello.
Hey, say, do we want to do public roles since I don't have GM perms for the sake of the stream?
Yeah, I would be all right with doing public roles. I can change the thing to.
Cool. So I got an 11 on my investigation.
I got a 17.
I
16.
got a dirty 20.
Well.
You got a Goblin 20? Nice.
No, a dirty 20. I got a 19.
Yeah.
Plus one. Oh,
What? A 19
said
is
a
a dirty
Goblin
20?
Well, a 19 was a plus one.
Yeah.
Isn't that
so,
a dirty 20?
So a Goblin 20.
Goblin 20.
Yeah,
I thought you
Goblin
said
20.
a Goblin
A Goblin 20 is anything that's not a natural 20.
Gotcha. I always heard that referred to as a dirty 20.
Yeah, most people do, but around here, because of Gobby Round the Flock, we had we have
Well,
Goblin.
that's where it came from.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
All right. So, yeah, I think. It was Andros and Clarissa that were investigating the crime scene photos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
And then Scylla and
Casimir with
Casimir, thank
the
you.
ledgers.
The ledgers. Yep.
Okay, so I think we can start with the crime scene photos. You see, like, both of you can see, like, almost immediately, like, these are scenes from that there are scenes from the previous attack last week in Precinct 4. And you remember getting, like, down the pipeline in your guilds because, well, really, every guild was able to kind of get the gist of what happened there. Essentially, a Rakdos member of the Rakdos cult tried to incite some kind of mass rioting amongst, like, the ungilded populace. And when when they were promptly kind of rushed by the Boros, what appeared to be like at the same time, what appeared to be like kind of like a Gruul raid started happening in the same neighborhood. And so essentially 3 different factions clashed with each other, and each like guild started sending more and more reinforcements until eventually like the Boros managed to secure the conflict with the help with the Azorius. And both of you remember kind of like going to the various memorials that took place like over the there are weekends? There are weekends in Ravnica, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So over the weekend, you remember going to the various memorials that took place.
So you said three factions clashing. To be clear, does that count as Rakdos or ungilded?
The ungilded were mostly caught in the crossfire. There wasn't that much of there wasn't really a faction to clash there, but there were
I'm at who's the
people
third?
fighting
Who's
as
the third
well.
faction in these
The
reports?
Boros
The Boros, the Gruul, and who?
and Rakdos.
And okay, because you said a Rakdos guy. That's why I was confused.
Mm-hmm.
So the Rakdos had a significant part in this.
Well, the Rakdos are the ones who incited it. Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, the scene was that a member of the Rakdos began inciting, and immediately, like, there was a lot of follow up from other various members of the Rakdos that
Okay.
had already been in the precinct.
So on paper it was Boros versus Rakdos, and then Gruul raided, and the citizenry got absolutely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That specific neighborhood got basically like wiped, like it got ran over basically, and they're still rebuilding.
So, like, not even the buildings were left at all?
It's
Well,
Gruul.
the building.
No, that makes sense. I'm just clarifying type thing. So it's just literally rubble now.
It's a new addition to the rubble belts. Yep.
Fitting that none of the guilds involved are here.
Rather odd, though. Huh. Strange. I would not imagine them working together like this, though.
Coincidence.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think like Andros, you honestly notice a little. You notice a little bit that like some of the crime scene photos seem to have a larger body count on that the crime scene photos seem to like kind of belie a larger body count in terms of the citizenry, but also that there are like a lot of like gruel amongst the body count as well. So it's kind of like strange that like the gruel like set up a raid at that time, and yet they were also wiped out amidst the citizenry as well.
Sorry, can you repeat the name? Who was that to?
Those to Andros. Yeah.
Okay.
Those,
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
that was to the boy with the 17. And yeah, basically the crime scene photos kind of uh, show the various details of that particular incident amongst like other amongst what seems like other photos, but we'll get to that in just a second. Ledger folks, Scylla and Kazimir, you are both on opposite ends of the table, but each of you kind of take your pick of the ledgers and rifle through them. And you notice that there are several, like, you immediately notice that there are several discrepancies, namely that like there are certain, like, these are ledgers for like basically the purchases of the Izzet League, um, the 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 Demir, the Demir kind of organization, and several of the several ledgers from the Orshov and the Azoria Senate. And immediately, Kashmir, you notice that there are several transactions, or like basically kind of purchases listed from the Azorius requesting requesting funding for buying extra like equipment kind of to deal basically with the increased level of violence in Precinct 4. And like there are several different contracts and financial jargon that basically narrow down to the Azorius asking the Orzhov for a lot of money to get weapons. And Scylla, you notice this as well on your search, but you also notice something different. You also notice that there are several. You also notice that mixed in with Demir, um, the Demir ledgers, which appear to be like all kind of up to par, like basically same as the Azorius. Like everything is listed, all the purchases are like kind of within like some kind of like perceived budget. Naturally, the budget for the Azorius is much higher. Everyone kind of knows that the Azorius get like the Azorius and Boros get like a certain amount of funding that is like given to them for the purposes of public safety and enforcing the guild pact. But you also notice that mixed in with the Demir ledgers, there's a couple of transactions between the Demir and the Simic, and what basically amounts to like nonsensical purchases. Like there doesn't seem to, it's not like weapons, it's not like any like research materials or things like that. It basically amounts to like purchases of food, like weird exotic foods and like straight like historical novels. There's like just like a bunch of basically at random, just random transactions between the Demir and the Simic, and they appear to be at like higher echelons. And like you guys look at the Izzet ledgers, there's Izzet ledgers mixed in there as well, but they're like, while the Demir Simic stuff was like nonsensical, this is just like the Izzet stuff is just like outright kind of like crude. They like ask for ridiculous amounts of money for things that they know will never get approved in terms of funding by the Orzhov, and they do it anyways, and everyone knows that they do it anyways, and they have learned better than to try and you know kind of stifle it, because they know that basically, well, they've learned better than to actually offer the money, because they know that trying to stifle Izzet inventions after they've gone on the loose is an exercise in futility.
Uh-huh.
Did you say when the ledgers were dated, especially the ones from Azorius?
Was that addressed to me or to Kit?
No, to you, because you mentioned that the ledgers from Azorius were related to acquisitions for dealing with unrest in District 4, which only
They're
recently came to
dated.
heads.
They're dated like basically the day after that incident, which you also find kind of strange, because generally these kind of funding requests take a lot longer to get accepted.
Yeah, that's way
Were they approved
faster
or were they
than-
just submitted?
It seems like there are signatures like checked off for both sides
Oof.
by officials.
You might want to draw Clarissa's attention to that.
Oh yeah, definitely going to say, you definitely do need to see this. It's from the sounds of it, you know exactly how bureaucracy works, and this is not in line with that at all. And he
I want to
motions
try.
her, or he points out to her exactly where the requisitions are and the date between Azorius.
Is
Go ahead.
there any sort of pattern to the purchases with the Simic, or is it likely under the table dealings masked as legitimate business?
Well, nobody knows that House Demir is House Demir.
Mm-hmm.
House Demir is a legitimate guild that runs the press.
Essentially, yeah,
Uh-huh.
they're meant to be like kind of like a hub of news,
Mhm.
basically, for Ravnica.
Like-
Yeah.
Like
like-
they're the press.
We, the players, know House Demir is Hush Hush Cloak and Dagger nonsense, but the citizens of Ravnica, they know House Demir exists and they think they're just news.
Yeah.
But this does seem kind of like an odd thing, right? Like Demir doesn't usually do this kind of.
Well, also keep in mind, though, everyone only just recently found out about Demir, because that's how the old guild pack got voided, was people found out it existed, and one of the conditions of the guild pack was that Demir would not be known by outside people.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
So
with
it's still just find out, wait, that's a guild?
but with my role and my proficiency in calligraphy tools and handwriting, am I able to tell who drew up the paperwork and if the signatures are legitimate, like if they match the handwriting of the people whose names they are? Because I figure I would at least know the Ortsoff, if not the.
Okay. Yeah, that's no problem.
You're a lawyer. I would make a strong argument that you'd know the Azorius as well.
Oh, I should.
Yes.
If you're a lawyer with the Orzhov, it'd be very weird if you didn't.
Yeah, I agree completely.
I would say, yeah, make an insight check with advantage.
Remind me, how do I roll advantage, or is that
It
just
does it
automatic?
automatically.
It should do it automatically, yes.
Nice.
So 17. Yeah, like looking over the signatures, you can see that for the Orzhov side, you actually recognize the name. You've never seen the person themselves, but you know that this is a relatively high like official in the syndicate, both in terms of financial arrangements and religion. People
It's like a bishop.
yeah, essentially a kind of minor bishop of the syndicate who arranges for these kinds of who arranges these kinds of transactions. They have a lot of different people that do it, but you've seen this name before more than once.
And this is definitely their legitimate signature.
This is definitely their legitimate signature. For the Azorius, it's obviously a little harder to tell. You've looked into their kind of dealings before, and you know their public faces, right? You know their general kind of political dealers, but this doesn't seem to specifically be written by one of those. This is probably like a more like kind of business oriented clerk, or like more paperwork oriented clerk in the Azorius Senate, and he seems to have signed off on this deal. And the signature, for better or worse, you could tell that it is that person's actual signature.
For it to get approved that quickly, it seems odd that it would be just a low level functionary getting it through that fast.
That is notable, yeah. That it wasn't one of the public faces that went through with it. You don't really know like the name of every single person that does business dealings,
Oh, of
that
course.
deals with transactions in the Azorius. But the person like has their title above their signature, and you can tell that like, okay, no, this is like uh Justiciar X or whatever, but it's not
Oof.
like the actual, that's not like an actual kind of public face.
I think there's more to the events unfolding than simply the massacre and the conflict. Somebody's, probably multiple parties, are pulling some strings behind the scenes. More so than usual, I would say.
What are you implying? Like looks like stands up from behind the Loxodon, turns to Casimir.
You know as well as I do that power comes in many forms and exerts itself in many ways. It's the natural way of things. There's no use denying it. And while we all attempt to maintain order in different and legitimate ways, it seems that there are certain parties yet to be identified that may be attempting to upend those different forms of order. In what ways is yet to be determined. There certainly seems to be matters worth investigating here.
You're the second person in this room to imply dissolving the guild pact. What did you find?
All of this paperwork, at least that I've examined so far, is
By the way, your
being
mic
approved.
quality has reduced substantially, and I'm not sure why.
I'll check into that.
I don't really seem to notice it that much.
I'm hard of hearing. I shouldn't, but I notice it because of the stream. Like normally he's relatively crisp, and as the stream has gone on, he's gotten more and more fishbowl. I wonder if his mic has come unplugged or something.
Is this today better?
Yes, substantially. Whatever you did, it was good.
Yeah, I just
And now it's
reset
gone
my
again.
headset. Weird.
Yep.
Okay, how about now?
There you go. You were saying.
All of these transactions are being approved much too quickly for the level of functionaries involved, and it's
So who are you funneling
to
money to?
this is not a name I recognize, and
Who are they
I'm
affiliated
sure
with?
that's well, it's right there on the page.
What, Cult of Fracto? Like, goes to take the ledger from you. Not like snatch it, but like if you're drawing your attention to the page, you like take it. Like,
Yeah, I'm pointing right to
yeah,
the
he
name
like
of her
takes
guild.
it. Like, Cult of Fracto. Looks at the page, looks at you, looks at the page. Is this a joke?
Something's going on here that I don't like.
The Vidalkin, like at this point, like he nods.
Do
and
you
so
have an explanation for these ridiculous purchases for from the Combine as well?
Who are you asking?
The is that guy?
I think he speaks up and he's like, "These are the papers that we managed to receive from the Orzhov Syndicate regarding recent purchases in the past couple of months."
With the cooperation of the syndicate?
Well, naturally, we had to go through the correct channels. We actually looked into this inquiry quite a bit ago, but we only managed to get the ledges themselves last week. So a bit short notice for a meeting like this.
Can I slip a note into the ledger before I pass it back to Casimir?
Roll sleight of hand.
Gladly. This will go great. I have really high dex. Yup, that's about right.
Oh my
First
god.
song of the night.
Does that just like whip it into someone's face then?
Nah, I think she just drops it.
Yeah, I think like in the middle of handing the paper back to Casimir, like very obviously a piece of paper like kind of slips out and floats down to the ground at like the foot of the table near them. And like the Celestial woman, she like narrows her eyes. She's like, excuse me, dear, what's that paper there that you dropped? Is that one of the ledgers? I can get that for you. And she like moves to stand up.
Yeah, I think Clarissa just like picks it up and like scowls at it. Some expense report for the banking clans. Like half tosses it to Casimir.
He's gotta catch it deftly and take a look. Giving her an
Can
eye.
I do an insight check here?
Can I roll deception against that?
Feel free.
Yeah, I think I'd
Roll
definitely
challenge.
do insight.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
That would be a roll challenge, right? So
Yep.
that's
The number to beat is 24, boys. Good luck.
Oh boy.
I got
Oh.
an 18. I did not beat it.
Damn.
Nope.
Valiant efforts.
Oh, what the hell?
Oh, we both actually rolled the same number. Me and
It's
Kid
always a chance for
realized
that
that.
20.
Oh,
Yeah.
actually a 16. If that had a decent bonus, that might have gone close. So
I
yeah,
rolled an 18 as well. It's just my insight is not as high as the deception.
yes, that is a fact. So yeah, I think like basically like the Celestial woman, she also kind of narrows her eyes at the two of you, but then like kind of moves to sit back down.
I'm not very dexterous, but I am charismatic.
Yeah, and like the Golgari representative, he like waves a hand. He's like, gotta love money and bureaucracy.
So, Casimir, the note says, you risked a lot showing me that. Talk to me after the meeting.
And he gives her a glare, but kind of quirks his brow in a way that only she should be able to see.
Yeah. I think, like, Casimir, like, you knowing what the note says, more so than the note, the fact that the arrestor just lied that easily is like, wait a minute, hang on.
Yeah,
Like-
all sorts of alarm bells are going off here.
Yeah, I think like the Vidalkin, like he goes to look at he looks at Scylla, and like he like while that conversation is going on that side of the table, he like looks to Scylla and kind of tries to and like he explains to her. He's like, well, the purchases from the combine to the purchases from the nearby the combine, from what I understand,
Oh, it's the other way around. The Combine's purchasing from the Demir.
uh, they are, and he
That
seems
was-
surprised. Yeah.
That was out of character.
Oh.
I
okay.
thought the Demir were purchasing from the Combine.
Oh, hold on. Let me check my notes.
It's interesting either way.
It is actually interesting either way. But yeah, Vader, you're right. It's the Demir purchasing from the Combine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I think like yeah, the Vidalkin, he's like, well, I did notice personally that the purchases seemed somewhat strange. Um, but I presume that the Combine has uh, many sorts of knowledgeable texts that the Demir could procure from them. So I didn't think much of it, but
Yes, but food? Wouldn't they just go to the Celestina?
that is a good point. And he looks over to the Selesnya representative, and she kind of frowns now that the conversation's turned to her. She almost kind of like lowers her shoulders. She's kind of like she doesn't uh, it, she as if she doesn't really know how to answer. She's like, I if we were requested for food, we would never deny requests of that nature. We have plenty of food to share from uh, our.
And that is precisely my point. Why get food from the Simic Combine instead of from your guild?
Well, from what I understand, the Simic Combine seems to often grow genetically modified crops, and maybe those are of some consequence to the Demir. Not that the Conclave would ever accept um, unnatural fruits of the earth from such a thing. And like she starts muttering to herself with like kind of like incessantly, and like she kind of tries to exit herself out of the conversation by doing so.
Your insinuations are demeaning, but not the point.
Yeah, and like yeah, the Vidalkin nods and he's like, yeah, well, it's definitely something to look into. um I would say that the Ismeri Library is the best place to visit for that sort of thing. I know that the Dimia a operate their news in their a good portion of their news distribution and their general archiving in the Ismeri Library. It should be in Precinct 5. Yeah, yeah, it's in Precinct 5.
That's also where the Zonot is, right?
The
Yeah,
Zonot is in. Is it?
I believe
I
so.
thought the Zonot was in Precinct 3, but that might be wrong.
no, it's in Precinct 5.
Okay.
It's a giant fucking pit.
Well, since you're
Giant
obviously leading this
pit.
investigation, why don't you take some volunteers and do precisely that? Like glaring at the Vidalkin.
While I would love to go to Precinct 5 myself and contribute to the investigation, unfortunately, I have to deal with the alleged uh, incident that occurred in Precinct 2 not too long ago. There is paperwork to fill, and well, let's just say that this meeting is a little bit of an exception in my
A lot of
schedule.
things, really. Then perhaps I could make a suggestion. If you have pressing business elsewhere, perhaps leave the investigation to the investigators.
Well, that I suppose that was the purpose of this diplomatic assembly. Um, well, excluding me, um, there are 6 other representatives of the guilds here. We could do uh, with forming some sort of diplomatic party to go and investigate these sort of things.
I agree completely. The Legionnaire, myself, and the Professor will investigate Precinct 4, and the representatives from the Swarm, the Conclave, and the Syndicate can go about Precinct 5.
At that wait, did you say professor? Were you referring to the
The
Vidalkin?
Simic.
Oh, yes. The researcher. I think the Golgari representative waves like a hand in front of them. It's like, while I'd love to participate in the investigation myself, unfortunately, as of right now, if I were to show my face in any of those precincts, relatively I'm relatively well known for being a political figure, and so I wouldn't want to alarm the citizenry that anything is going on with the Golgari swarm. Unfortunately, we already get enough bad press, so to speak, as
I
it
have a
is.
terrible metagaming question.
Terrible metagaming question is
Those are the best kind.
I want to ask it out of character before I put my foot in it in character.
Yep.
In the timeline that is Ravnica, has the eldest Gorgon sister been assassinated yet?
Vraska or
The leader of the Golgari.
Oh, no.
Okay, I almost made a comment about that, so I'm glad that I asked.
Right now, Jared's the Golgari leader. This is post Living Guild Pact.
Yeah, it's the Jared and the other girl.
Then the eldest sister did die. The eldest sister has
the
been
elder
dead.
sister is dead as shit at this point.
Okay.
Oh, so that was a long time ago. I thought that was for more of the spark. My bad.
No.
So, I think
Goes to show how much I know.
no, Clarissa's not that petty. Clarissa's not gonna make a comment. She'll just nod.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're not gonna get any farther sitting around here.
Yeah, so I think the Vidalkin, he kind of nods slowly and he's like, fine. I have other things to do as well. Meeting adjourned, everyone.
Because puts her helm on, puts her shield on her back, and walks out.
and he's about to speak, and then just like clank, 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 clank. All right, do as you will. And he folds up the remaining papers that he had. Clearly, he had some kind of speech that he wrote out or something, and he kind of tucks it under his shoulder and heads out of one of the several different doorways in
For
the hall.
those of you who may not be familiar with Ravnica, do not let the Izzet speak. That's the rule.
You let the Izzet speak, and then you watch the fireworks, and then you fill out a bunch of paperwork over saying why you didn't stop them from
pretty
exploding
much.
the district.
Yeah.
Do I have a few moments alone, Game Master?
Yeah.
Cool. I want to make a thought strand of that entire meeting.
Oh, all right. The arrestor leaves the hall, leaving the 3 of you to do as you will, and we'll get back to what's in the hall in just a moment. How does the thought strand spell work again?
It's a cantrip. I can copy my thoughts, or if I'm close enough, I can copy somebody else's into a physical magical thread. I want to tie up a copy of my notes from the meeting with it and slip that into my backpack to drop later.
Hmm. All right.
Printing your thoughts on the string is totally a legitimate thing and not suspicious at all, folks.
Definitely all above board. But yeah, you essentially like channel your thoughts into a blue strand of magical energy and insert it into an what appears to be like an actual blue string of rope, and
Mm-hmm.
you put it away, I guess,
Tie that
into.
around a copy of my notes from the meeting, slip that into like my backpack when nobody can see me, and I'll drop that later.
Mhm. Now getting back to in the hall, the rest of them, the Golgari representative, like has already packed up and is turning away. And the Selesnya representative actually the walks up to Andros and Casimir on that side of the table. Um, and yeah, she kind of softly speaks up, um, also addressing whoever's like remained in the room. Uh, if you wouldn't mind, this situation appears to be rather pressing, and the Selesnya Conclave specifically sent me here in order to potentially broker peace. It was supposed to be done during the meeting as well, of course, but I feel that I have not quite fulfilled that role. So, if I may, would I be able to accompany you in these investigations?
I don't know. You think you're in a good enough fight? Because if things go according to my plans, I'm going to be punching somebody before the sun goes down today.
I do believe that's what taverns are for, good sir. Casimir says as he's adjusting some papers.
Yeah, I think she like kind of shakes her head slowly and says, no, unfortunately, my days as a warrior of the Conclave are long behind me. But I would still like to participate in the investigation, if only for the sake of being able to bear witness to the ongoings of whatever takes place in these in this situation. I believe that it is of vital importance that we have all the guilds, that we have at the very least our guilds um, equally on the same page in terms of information. She kind of shoots a look across the table.
When you're like said page and information, you can tell on just does like a shudder. I do not like paperwork. How clear can I make that?
Yeah. So yeah. I think like. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Casimir makes a gracious gesture, sort of acknowledging her comment, saying, "Well, your sentiments, while somewhat misguided in these times, the intention seems good, and an extra set of eyes in situations like that may not be the worst thing to have, even if uh, the investigation proceeds beyond taking action. With so many other guilds' presence being lacking, uh, any extra impartial mind we can get
Well,
may be a good thing.
well, then, if we are looking to cooperate, I want your opinion. Do you think the Gruul are so reckless as to mindlessly murder their own followers?
It does seem odd that they would plan a raid which would so easily create so much collateral damage. It does not seem like that. But
Oh, no, they'd
I'm
be
not a
collateral damage. If anything, they'd be all for it.
well, yes, but not of their own people.
Indeed.
The Selesnya woman nods, and she says, "Indeed, I think that it is quite unprecedented that they would encourage such a clash and then end up on the losing side of it. If there's one thing I know, it is that when Gruul picks a fight, it is a fight that they intend and uh, in most occasions do win.
Not only that, and far be it from me to be a judge of security here, but I believe it is typical when such conflicts do take place within the city walls that Rakdos does their utmost to at least channel the proceedings, should they continue, into areas far away from the populace as they can manage, which seems to be far from the case here.
Well, I can't speak for the Rakdos, but in general, that is what they're supposed to do.
Casimir eyes
Rolls her eyes.
Legionnaire.
The Rakdos, in my opinion, are just crazy bloodthirsty hedonists. But still, even though they give into pleasure, there's always something behind it.
I'm sorry, I probably said the wrong one. I meant Boros, not Rakdos.
Sorry, can you repeat again then? As my mind heard Rakdos and it was thinking that.
Oh,
Yeah, I meant to say the wrong thing. I was saying that the in summary that the Boros Legion is generally, if there's a conflict that they can't resolve immediately, they're at least going to take it as far away from the citizenry as possible, and it doesn't seem like that happened.
Right. Okay, yeah, you're right. Sorry. My mind went down a weird route. Well, yes, we do not involve innocent people in our search for justice!
I think the old lady kind of like jumps at the sudden
Trouble
outburst,
follows me
and she's like,
everywhere.
"Yes, justice." Uh, and yeah. So, what does Scylla think of the current proceedings in the hall? Is she silently observing the loud outbursts across the table? Has she left yet?
Observing, gathering her things, getting ready to leave, taking her time.
Mhm. Yeah. I think I think the Celestial woman nods and says, "Well, um, if we are going to be working together, I suppose we should uh, share our names. Um, I am uh, I am Silvestra Trinero. I am the lead of one of the Verdani in the Selesnya Conclave. Um, in lieu of the recent and unfortunate death of our former circle leader, I have taken up her spot, and I wasn't entirely expecting to come to this meeting today, but I am glad that I did. It seems that there is a lot going on here that the Selesnya should know about.
Seems like a lot's going on here that all of us should know about. I don't know. Makes my skin itch.
Mm. Yeah. I think she like kind of gestures with her head. Well, should we go out and meet with the arrester from earlier? She seemed to be of a mind to investigate further into certain areas in Precinct 4. Um, and I suppose having a member of the Legion would probably ease things in that particular area. I fear that we may need every set of hands and eyes that we can gather in a veritable war zone like that.
Ugh. Trust me. Just do not let them go. Do not let her go on about the laws and specifics. Oh, you can't punch this. Oh, you have to fill out Form 17B3 and something ridiculous like that.
Absolutely ridiculous. It must definitely be Form 23C for punching.
Glare. That's when you say that. Just straight up glare.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Now I'm having to work with two of them.
Yeah, so I think like she begins to head out. Um, and uh, yeah, as the and like Scylla, do you follow the group out of the hall, or do you go into a different direction?
Mhm. She follows them out.
Mhm. Okay. And with that, if you all don't mind, I would like to suggest a quick 5-minute break because I did a lot of talking and I need to drink some tea.
I mean, we can absolutely take a break. That's fine with me. But also, we can talk amongst ourselves if you would prefer. Either one is fine.
Uh, Either way is fine. I mean,
I mean, it's your show, dude.
I'd like to hear the conversation though. So if you don't
Ah,
mind.
okay. Yeah, no, not at all. I will turn some music on, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Stay tuned, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Be right back.
And we're back. Thank you very much for your patience during that time. Open Dice Night continues with our sponsor continuing his story. Say? Sayed. Say? I swear I got a message backstage. It was like, I'm back, I'm ready to go. Well, this is awkward. Now's a great time to talk about Twitch Prime, I suppose. No. Oh, apparently says mic isn't working. Is it muted, like, analogically? Is it muted in meat space by any chance? Is there a button somewhere in meat space? Nope, doesn't look that way. Well, heckin'. Okay. Say is doing some fixing backstage. So apparently Say is here. Say is ready to go. It just so happens that technology thunderclap. You know how it goes. Is anybody else here by any chance?
I'm here.
Hi Vader.
Yeah, so my mic is working still.
Hi Squeaky.
Yes.
Hi Hockey.
Hello?
Hi Say.
Oh, it's back?
Yeah, it's back.
Thank God. Okay. Oh my God. I actually got really scared. Okay. Whew.
We're good.
Mike suddenly went to Fritz. But yeah, welcome back everybody. Sorry for the brief technical issues there for some reason.
Hey, it wouldn't be D&D without technical difficulties. The D
Say it
in
out loud.
D&D stands for technical problems.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We can go and get right back into the Odeon as our reluctant group of ambassadors makes their way out into the corridor beside their previous meeting hall. The corridor itself is pretty much empty. It seems that probably there were some. Any of you can make an Arcana check real quick.
Does that include me? Or
Yeah, anyone can. They exited into the same hallway you did, so.
I'll take a 19, sure.
Oh, well, damn. Okay. So, yeah. Clarissa, you noticed, like, immediately when you left earlier, like, as soon as you exited into the hall, you noticed, okay, there have been wards, like, precautionally placed outside the building, and specifically in like certain corridors that like kind of that both muffle sound and kind of like dissuade people from coming in, like to like if someone were to try and come into this place, they'd pretty quickly like realize, okay, uh, I I suddenly don't really want to be here. I'm just gonna go. This place is kind of creepy, and they would just leave.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go all the way out and get my horse.
Okay, you're gonna go all the way out. Yeah. So then, the four of you exit into the hallway, and you notice that the arrestor isn't anywhere to be found for the moment.
Did you leave that fast? Did you already leave that fast? Seems kind of odd.
I don't know. It seems in character as decisive as she was about everything else.
So Sylvester speaks up. Yes, I suppose maybe she might have already left. That does not quite bode well. Though I suppose we do have a member of the Legion, so we should at least be able to display some a legal authority without flagrantly flaunting any specific diplomatic titles. We don't really want to rouse anyone there, especially not now.
Was it stated, and I'm just forgetting what time of day it was or what time it is now?
It hasn't been stated, but like now exiting the hall, like you can see out of the like there are windows dotting the corridor, and you can see like it's about midday, maybe a little bit after noon. That's like whereabouts where the sun seems to be right about now.
Well, I don't think there's any point in pursuing information just yet, as it's probably still lunchtime in most areas. We would need to seek information anyway. So I suggest first we catch up with the arrestor, as I doubt she would be pleased should anyone attempt to make progress without her.
Oh, she was a little bit uh assertive, so to say. So I do have to agree. So
And Casper's just gonna walk down the hall.
so yeah, like I guess Casimir walks down the hall. Sylvester follows after him. Then I presume the other two follow as well.
Scylla's just kind of following at her own pace.
Yeah.
Tagging along back
Arcos
there.
is pretty much doing the same deal too.
Mhm.
Could I tell who laid those wards, or at the very least their affiliation?
Hmm.
I got a 19.
I would say, yeah, that's true. You did get a pretty high thing on the Arcana check. Yeah. You can tell that the person who laid the wards, initially, it wasn't actually the Dalkin or whatever, or it wasn't an is it affiliated laid ward. But it seems to be a residual ward that was previously placed by the Azorius. So,
okay.
so you can tell that like this place was used for some meetings before, just judging from like the architecture and the wards.
By the Azorius. Okay, interesting. I'll keep that little bit of information to myself for now.
Yep. So, where do we find Clarissa right now? In
Literally out in front of the
proximity?
building, sitting on a horse.
Already sitting on her horse? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is uncomfortable to walk in plate mail with heels, but they're great for stirrups, so she's going to spend more time on the horse if she can help it.
All right, hell yeah. So, yeah, I think that's the first immediate sight. As the two of you walk outside, you see that this is actually a building in. Ooh, let me scroll up. Precinct 2.
Oh, we're in the Senate district. Oof, okay.
Yeah. So like you can tell like this building doesn't really like kind of like stick out as much in terms of like the
What are the
more grander kind of
chances-
larger buildings.
What are the chances the League would know about this building and its residual surveillance, or lack of surveillance?
That they would know about it if not told.
Yeah.
I mean, like from what you can tell, like before you came to this building, like you already knew kind of that this building was used for other kind of like
Right. Would the
meetings of
League
some
know
sort
that?
in the past. The League wouldn't know unless they were told.
Okay. So that's suspicious. Okay. And so I see these four coming out of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're in precinct 2, then Clarissa's horse is in full regalia. It's got like the steel and silver barding with the blue ribbons on it. Like very obviously, like this is a police horse, but also very obviously not kitted out for like jousting, right? Like she doesn't have a lance. It's not wearing full armor, etc. It'll like it's got some protection against like rocks, but not so much against a crossbow bolt, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like the four of you come out, and I think like she gives a firm nod to Scylla and Andros, a much more like for your eyes only nod to Casmore, and then she kind of like turned her nose up at the Celestian representative. Like, I didn't invite you. I told you to go to Precinct 5. But she doesn't say anything at first. She'll let the others speak.
Mm-hmm. Arrestor, it I it is to my understanding that there was a group formed from the four of you, but if you would not mind, the Selesnya Conclave does hold some interest in seeing these matters resolved as well. And as a representative member, I would like to at least observe the proceedings.
Do you believe the
As
rubble belt is the safest place for you?
while the rubble belt may not be the safest place, I assure you that if it were to come to some sort of battle, I would be able to hold my own against the chaotic hooligans that plague the Red Wastes.
Don't worry, between your impenetrable armor and my fists of justice, I think we'll get through just fine.
Slowly quirks an eyebrow under her helmet.
Are you incapable of saying that word normally?
Lord.
Justice.
You mean justice? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying it perfectly normal.
Not even slightly. I'm going to have to issue a noise complaint if you keep doing that.
Yeah, I think like occasionally like at the outbursts like you see like heads turn from like people that are walking past, but like they just kind of like keep walking.
Just keep walking, don't stare at them, don't stare at them.
Yeah, basically.
I imagine that's what one of your sneezes sounds like.
Excuse me, but the Boris Legion holds no prejudice against any species.
What?
What?
Your sneezes. You have a nose that's... Never mind. Do
At
any of
that,
you
I
have...
think Artis just turns towards the others, like giving the she's strange look and all.
Do any of you have transportation?
I do have an escort that came with me earlier. I was planning to contact them upon the end of this meeting, but it seems that plans have changed. I can still contact them as well, but I doubt that they will accompany us to, well, to Precinct 4.
And the rest of you?
Well, I primarily walk most places.
Good exercise.
Like a bit shifty-eyed there.
Yeah.
I should be able to summon any transportation I require.
I can keep up with a horse when I feel like it.
Like the celestial woman like turns to Scylla and she's like gives her like a wide-eyed look like
Yeah, I think
Pardon?
Clarissa echoes that look. Like, you what, mate? It's like the Legionnaire, I can believe, but what?
It's easier to cover ground when you can go over buildings.
Go over. You're in District 2. Do you have a permit?
Watch out, she's trying to draw you into an argument, and next thing you know, you spend the next 24 hours locked in a library with a huge book stuck in front of you.
Voice of experience, Legionnaire.
Kept saying that I was within my perfect rights, but apparently then just stops there.
I cannot believe that I'm about to say this, but I find myself in agreement with the...
She stops.
It occurs to me that I don't know any of your names.
Yeah, the small woman speaks up. Well, I introduced myself to the rest earlier, but Aresta, my name is Silvestra Trinero, and I am a representative of one of the major prayer circles for the Conclave.
And Clarissa nods. And she keeps looking at Casimir, mostly.
Yes, formalities. I am Advocist Casimir Vosnik.
That makes a great deal of sense, actually.
Did my
I am
facility with the
Scylla
ledges
of the
convey?
Guardian Project.
Of the what project, sorry?
The Guardian Project.
Guardian Project. Have I heard of the Guardian Project, GM?
It's it's actual literal magic card.
I'm just saying, do I know what that is, GM?
Yeah, essentially, the Guardian Project is a experimental kind of movement by the Simic Combine recently that has basically tried to splice animals with humanoid beings, and yeah.
Creating monsters and super soldiers is the description.
Is it really?
Essentially.
Wow, okay.
Well, like in the Forsaken, like the book written by Warrior Spark, it is revealed that the Simic was building a whole fucking army.
Mm-hmm. But that's later.
And you, Legionnaire, name, rank, and serial number?
Ooh.
The name is Oh, sorry. My chair just suddenly kind of shifted on me. Okay, the name is Ordros Ifu, Sergeant. As for serial number, there is no important time to memorize confusing numbers.
Quite. Arrest your second class Clarissa Gold's crown. Riot, generally speaking. Though it may be easy to think of me as civil rescue. And as I was about to say, I cannot believe I find myself in agreement with an advocist, but a carriage might be the best solution. I doubt there will be a difficulty with checkpoints or traffic with me riding alongside, so we should get to District 4 promptly.
Yeah, Sylvester nods slowly. A carriage would be nice, yes.
Can I like... This is a shitty thing to do, but I have seen public officials do this. Can I, like, see a vacant carriage coming and just pull my horse out in front of it?
There seem to be carriages on the street. You can't immediately tell for some of them if they're vacant or not, but you look for one with like an open top kind of deal.
Right.
And eventually, like you are able to find like an open seated one. That
Yeah, just
is
like pull out my
approaching.
whistle, pull out my badge, and just march out in front of it.
Yeah, I think like you start blasting your whistle, like Sylvester's eyes widen, and like the carriage driver like he pulls back on the reins and the horses rear, and he's like, what is the matter, Arrestor?
Like, take the whistle out of my mouth.
You're being commandeered in the name of the Senate.
It would be my honor.
Just
Please.
like lead him over to the others.
Yeah, like he like very frantically kind of like pulls the reins to the side, trying not to like kind of interrupt the street traffic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, uh,
Can I take a little flag out of my backpack with the Azoria Senate logo on it and put it on his thing?
Sure, yeah.
Cool.
And an effective abuse of power. Very impressive.
Abuse?
Oh, did I say that? How silly of me.
Funnily enough, this is a background feature that I actually have.
It's a background feature.
It's literally this.
And
yeah.
it's also abuse of power, but it's an abuse of power in the name of a background feature.
Yep. It's an abuse of power in the name of character development.
That's hilarious. I was gonna use my background feature.
This poor man just did not stand a chance.
Nope.
No, absolutely not. So yeah, like he pulls up the horses and the carriage like beside you guys. He like quickly like puts them to a stop and like opens the door, opens like the side doors of the carriage, and he's like standing beside them, and he's like,
when the driver gets down to let them in, I'm gonna put 5 Xenos on his seat.
he looks back over his shoulder and he's like, please, officer, you're too kind. This is nothing that needs payment, of course. I would be happy to offer my carriage in the name of the law.
She smiles under her helmet. She says,
No. You'll be reimbursed at the Senate. Simply present yourself with...
and she like cites the form that he needs to fill out.
he's like trying to like keep track of like all the like sections and the digital numbers.
Yeah, I'll write it on a little note and put it under the money.
And he's like, thank you very much, Aresta. Thank you. And he like nods frantically.
After all, you're moving into a hazardous locale.
Of course. I would be delighted to.
District
like,
4, once everyone's loaded.
like his eyes like shoot open. He's like, oh, District 4, right. My carriage does not usually go that far, so the ride may take a bit longer, but of course I can get you there quickly. He like looks away and starts like kind of shuffles back up into the driver's seat.
Yeah, and like I'll give him a police escort. And anybody start like, and when I say police escort, like I mean it. Like anybody starts anything, anybody on like the high road starts anything, it's just like shield out, other hand on sword hilt, like make way.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, the doors are open. I assume everyone gets on.
Yeah, Casimir climbs into the carriage and kind of gets behind the driver and seems to be kind of maybe not sniffing exactly, but it seems to be kind of basking in his discomfort.
Yeah, the carriage itself doesn't seem to be like it's not exactly the kind of like well furnished thing that you would see ridden by like diplomats or like higher ups in or like higher up nobles in precinct 2. But it's like it suffices kind of for transportation. It does have some like cushions, more or less. And yeah, like Sylvester shuffles in as well, and the driver like looks back once more, and he's like, the precinct 4, you said, right? Um, uh, he like makes to look back and like the word starts in his mouth, and you know he's gonna say like, "Are you sure?" But then like he kind of like thinks better of it, and he like turns back, and he starts like turning the horses back around. And yeah, do you guys have any scenes that you want to play out before
Yes,
we reach the
actually.
precinct 4? All right, feel free.
Can I, because of my sponsorship,
Mm-hmm.
can I cast message subtly?
I would say, yeah. You would. You'd probably have to make a check for that because it does require a somatic component. I'm
It
pretty
does
sure.
require a somatic component.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if that would be
But doesn't
Arcana or
my
Sleight of Hand.
doesn't my sigil forgo components?
Oh, you're right. You're right, actually, because that's like kind of like a spell focus thing. Yeah. Okay. Then yeah.
I want to cast message centered on Casimir while we're riding.
This will be interesting.
Okay. Then yeah. That's message is a cantrip, so
Yep,
no spell
it's a
slot.
cantrip. I can spam it and he can respond. So
Okay.
So Clarissa's like in the front with her shield out, like helping get the carriage through the tight, roadways of Ravnica. And then Casimir, Casimir does get a save if he's not willing. That's up to Squeaky.
I think I would be willing at
Okay.
least to find out the
So
initially what's
so
going
yeah,
on.
so just in your head, you hear, "I'm not saying I trust you, Advocist, but what do you suspect?"
I wasn't suspecting this. You're full of surprises, and I would be disappointed if you did trust me. As
Should
for what
I?
From the recent developments, notwithstanding, it should a good idea not to trust anyone.
Certainly not the Azorius.
If indeed it was the Azorius, such a public guild can easily be used as a front, a facade, should an individual put enough effort into it.
They've got their hands in enough dark dealings as it is.
Yes, it could very well be. You're quite open about that for one so close to the guild.
There was no one there to tell on me. Certainly not you.
Certainly not. But what makes you so suspicious?
Of the Azorius or the Orzhov?
Both, yourself. It goes without saying. I know what good reason you have to be suspicious of them. But what of the Azorius?
Hostile. The word you're looking for is hostile. There are dark dealings in the Azorius, I will grant you, but it is largely a force for good, especially the rank and file. The reverse is true for the Syndicate. You have philanthropic notions, not time and again, but by and large, you're a bunch of curs. To answer your question, I don't know where to start with all of this. I just know that the public face of the Azorius is not all that there is. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know.
Nor I you.
The fact is, you didn't have to show me that ledger. There's no benefit in it for you, and it only weakens your position. Which means I have reason to suspect that you, while I'm not willing to say are one of the good ones, I will say, seemingly, you're willing to put the good of the city above the affluence of your own guild. And that's a rarity these days.
It is indeed, though you have the habit, as many do in your position, of looking at things entirely from one perspective. There are many angles to look at this, many other matters, which I think is why my assistance would be of benefit.
I'm inclined to agree with you. Nevertheless, an Orshav and Azorius working together publicly. If the Guild Pact gave a damn, it would call it down on our heads. I say this to you in strictest confidence, though luckily you have no proof of this conversation. Bellerin is a tosspot. Completely worthless.
Again, not news to me, or most in the know.
I could count on one hand those in the know. Most people think he's Father Christmas. He's about as useful.
Indeed.
What's your take on all of this? Those in the carriage with you? The attack on District 4? This money laundering, if that's what it is? What are your early conclusions?
My early conclusions are that most of the representatives sent to this investigative council were table dressing, as it were, and those perhaps attempting to organize it may be setting us aside in the hopes that the investigation goes no further, or perhaps we get off track.
So you think it's
Perhaps
a trap?
That is one possibility. I would not draw that conclusion just yet, but it would not surprise me, given the amount of misdirection already occurring, that this were not maybe perhaps a part of that.
And the others with you? The Legionnaire seems easy enough to figure out. The Combine representative, next to impossible. And I'm sure you've your own opinions of the Conclave, but that one in particular, I am suspicious of.
A healthy suspicion is good in our lines of work.
Fair. Find out what you can. It's a long way to Precinct 4.
Indeed. That was my intention.
In the meantime, I'll make certain no goblins get experimental.
A pity. I'm sure the Legionnaire would enjoy the diversion.
Clarissa cuts the connection.
Okay. All right. So yeah. Are there any other scenes that people want to set up? Does anyone want to talk to the conclave woman? Does anyone want to talk to the carriage driver?
Can I make a perception check to keep an eye out for danger?
Yes, you may.
Ba-doom. I'll just set that. Have any of us got inspiration yet?
I don't think so.
There might be.
That's your call, say.
Hold on. Let me look at the sheet.
Oh, I didn't even think if you're obviously making a check, yeah, if it's obvious that you're looking for danger, I could give you.
If you're gonna say guidance, you have to touch them.
Oh, true.
But if you're gonna say bardic inspiration, that's a different kettle of fish.
I wasn't going to use that quite yet.
All right. So, yeah.
So nobody has inspiration?
I don't have inspiration.
I know. I'm saying Say hasn't awarded any yet, and I'm surprised.
Not yet.
Okay.
I might award inspiration soon, or maybe after the session. It's just been a while since I've DM'd 5e, so I kind of forgot about that little feature, to be quite honest.
And that's fine. It's where I'm in the GM chair so often. When I see people rolling low, my first instinct is like, when was the last time I gave inspiration? Just in case, like.
Yeah.
I got a 6 in one perception roll. It's fine. I'm not asking for it. I'm just saying that's why my head went there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable to give it in this scenario because that conversation was a very in character for you, and from what I remember, inspiration is usually given for either like
playing to the character.
Yeah, for playing to the character.
I mean, in that case, I'm immediately gonna spend it and re-roll that.
All right. Fair. Oh,
there we go.
Wow.
Really?
Well.
Much better.
Much better.
My my generosity, it seems, has been very well taken by Roll20.
Yes.
So, hell yeah. All right. Yeah, I would say along your way, keeping an eye out for danger, you will be passing through District 3.
That's the high road, isn't it?
Pretty sure. Hold on. There's a map for this.
There is a map for this. There's a map for all of Ravnica. The problem is it's massive. Hey, we're passing through the Selesnya district.
Yep. Hold on. Yeah. So basically, yeah, in order to get through to Precinct 4, you have to I think, if I'm not mistaken, you need to go like over through the Selesnya Conclave onto Tin Street.
Yes.
And then get to Precinct 4 through there. So yeah.
You could also go through the Transguild Promenade.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like that would have too many eyes on us.
Yeah, so I think even like the maybe like the carriage driver tries to like head off to the Trans Guild Promenade to do things, and maybe you interrupt him at some point and direct him like, no, we can go this way. Or
I don't think it's anything that overt. I think it's just I'm making the path for him anyway.
right,
So
so
I'll
you
just
start
make the
heading
path.
there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, as the carriage heads on its way, eventually you make your way out of the tall kind of marble buildings of Precinct 2 and into the, you would say more almost village-like kind of very open settlement
The word you're
of
looking for is
Precinct 3.
sustainable architecture.
Yeah, kind of. Sustainable architecture. Yeah, yeah, that's actually exactly what it is, isn't it? And yeah, you make your way through.
What the hell is going to attack us in the Concordance, though? This will be interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm just like you notice on your way through Precinct 3 that there is the usual kind of open farmer markets selling food. There's lots of milling about, and the place generally seems like very homely. A very nice kind of a nostalgic kind of feeling to it. You can.
May I speak personally for just a second?
Oh yeah.
This has absolutely no bearing on Clarissa's story or the story of the city that never sleeps, but just from Kit's perspective, there is no guild in Ravnica that creeps me out more than the Selesnya Conclave. The Selesnya Conclave legitimately creeps me out.
Forever and ever.
Ugh.
Totally.
I would rather hang out with the Golgari than the Selesnya. Like, ugh.
I mean,
Congratulations, you've been selected as tonight's mold fertilizer.
oh God. No, I definitely think. I mean, the Golgari have a super cool aesthetic, man. I would totally hang out with the Golgari, dude.
I mean, valid.
And Selesnya has that kind of weird Mother Earth kind of vibe. So, like,
Yeah.
maybe take a step back from it.
A little bit. Is this the cult? We're not the cult. We're the Selesnya Conclave. We're agreed. Like, yeah, this is the cult. Anyway.
Yeah. You guys continue to make your way down through the road. Again, the more experienced of you in terms of like law enforcement and the like, you see that like there's definitely like patrols going on around this district, but they definitely don't seem as heavy as the districts that you might generally be used to. It seems that the footholds here for Azorius and Boros don't seem to have as concentrated a presence as they normally would in other districts. But overall, like the place seems peaceful as usual, more or less. And this kind of peaceful atmosphere slowly begins to kind of change into a very packed, or rather, what was like sparse becomes even more sparse, and eventually it leads onto like a singular kind of a road, bridge-like road down through. It's a very like wide kind of boardwalk style bridge, and like you immediately recognize it. Okay, this is Tin Street, and like it's got like all the characteristic noise, the markets, or like there are like shops that are very kind of either dilapidated or like not as well kept as the previous two districts that you were looking at. There are various different shades of ne'er-do-wells lying about, and all sorts of shapes and colors of thieves and general hooligans lying about in the various corners of the street. At least from what most of you know about it, Tin Street is about as um, hostile as described. So there's definitely a different like tonal change in the air as you guys make your way onto the market street. Um, Clarissa, you notice immediately that that like several people kind of like eye your pseudo convoy, and like you, but like they don't seem to immediately act on it. But you can tell that like you've gathered a kind of following, and even as like you kind of like pass by certain alleyways, you see like some people like um, coincidentally start walking away from the various stalls and start like tailing you, more or less. It's not very it's not very hard to see for you. But what you do notice that would be a little bit harder to see is that even on the roofs of some of the certain buildings, you see little like hints of like a hand kind of like sticking out from behind like a chimney post, and
Right.
like basically like yeah, you know, there's um
Do I
like a
know?
dagger sticking out from out of an alley, etc., etc.
While I can only assume that the advocate is doing his do it, which is fine. I'm more like I would love to see him like pump the party for information, but just as a quick aside, do I know some Boros hand signals?
uh I would say the Azorius and Boros cooperate frequently enough that you know like the basic ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I only want a basic one. What like if do you mind if I draw on your map?
Yeah, sure.
I imagine the carriage is set up kind of like this with two bench seats facing each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where is Andros in the carriage?
I'd say Andros would probably be more towards the back if you're at the front, because one in strong in the front, one in the back.
Oh, are you not in the carriage?
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm a big, heavy elephant.
You're only a medium creature.
Oh, it's true. I just was more thinking I would not be heavy. I would be too heavy for the carriage.
Oh, well, there's two horses and they seem relatively strong, but it would probably be a slower trip to the destination.
It's also not like Loxodon don't make up a sizable part of Ravnica's population. Like,
yeah,
It's true too.
the carriage
not
would
like they're a
definitely
huge
be
herd.
able to support you.
Okay. Well,
but if you're not in the carriage, that makes this a hell of a lot easier.
I was just thinking I'd do the same as well. Yeah, just one in front, one in back type deal.
Okay, then yeah,
Okay.
straight up. If he's out and on his feet, then I'm just gonna give him the signal of like enemies spotted.
Mm.
Do I need to roll anything to understand that, or?
No. I think like basic with your basic Boros stuff. Actually, let me look at your sheet for a second.
Sorry, my sheet's a little underfilled. Oh wait.
No, it's good enough, I'd say. I would say, like, yeah, like just from passive perception and insight, like you can immediately kind of tell, like, okay, this was like part of your trading like years ago. You know, Okay, when someone makes this hand sign, whether it's Azorius, whether it's Boros, during an operation, it basically means okay.
Eyes
Shit.
up, Guardian.
Yeah, eyes up.
And I think before anything happens, as this fight is going on, Casimir would try to strike up conversation with the relatively quiet um, Scylla, um, just asking her. So, what's your take on the information about your guild that you seem to find concerning? What's your stake in all this?
Well, I don't have much information other than it's passing strange. I feel like I'm going to need to go back to the Zonot and gather more information.
That usually this isn't something that would be of a pressing concern. So why the urgency now?
Why would that Izzet member present it if it wasn't of a concern?
Because the guilds are always looking for some reason to cause turmoil within other guilds. It's all plays for power and influence and resources.
I don't know what he has to gain by showing me these papers, other than an excuse to set off fireworks.
Well, rarely do they need an excuse for that, but trying to get the guilds together to investigate, then recusing himself, certainly that merits some consideration. And he could most certainly find another representative to send, if not himself.
Everything has a purpose, including these transactions, and their purpose eludes me.
Well, the purpose may not be the transaction themselves. The purpose may be setting people on a certain course. Perhaps it is not the transactions themselves that is meant to accomplish the purpose, but the investigation itself.
Are you suggesting he presented false evidence?
Oh, it may not be false in the slightest, but what can be gained from presenting it and then attempting to get all or most of the guilds to pursue an investigation when there were already elements in place that could do the investigations independently?
Well, there's always the greater good. Even in Ravnica, you'd be surprised how many people follow that creed.
Who claim to follow that creed, says with a smirk. The greater good is often only for the greater, which is the natural way of things. So it seems odd that so many people would attempt to promote good that ultimately does not serve themselves.
Either way, I don't have enough information yet, and I plan to get that.
And you think that your guild will be forthcoming with the information that you would need then?
You are certainly pessimistic about this whole situation.
I have a realistic perspective of how things work. few people, I believe, entertain, which in many situations is to one's advantage. But if we are to gain productive results in these endeavors, I believe it is worthwhile to have a realistic approach to things.
Realism is all well and good, but a healthy dose of optimism never hurts anyone.
Oh yes, I'm sure the smile upon the faces of the deceased eats their passage into the next life.
At that, I think she turns her head and just kind of stares off into the distance again.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I think like the Sylvester, she like kind of like stares a bit wide-eyed at the kind of like very dark topic of the conversation that's come up. Just kind of like stunned a little bit. Uh, well, as lovely as that conversation is, I do believe that we are almost out of the woods, so to speak, and into the forest fire. And like, yeah, like, it like Andros and Clarissa notice it like first that, oh, like, you know, the sounds of 10th Street have kind of began to fade away somewhat. And actually, Casimir and Scylla, can you guys give me perception checks as well?
I'm back, by the way. Hello.
Pardon? Yeah, hi. I wasn't sure if I was heard or not.
You were.
My thing is clear? Okay, cool.
We're waiting on a roll from Scylla.
Wait,
Yeah.
why for me?
For Casimir and Scylla, just perception rolls real quick.
I see
Okay.
Casimir's, but I don't see Scylla.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
No worries.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Didn't hear my name called.
I just noticed your name, Hockey. How dare you?
What? Do you have a problem with justice?
Yes! I do have a problem with justice. That's why I'm playing in Azorius. Heyo!
Heyo.
Heyo.
Them double 14s, though.
No shit. Yeah. I think, yeah, you guys at that level, you would probably notice as well. Like, you guys, while you were going through 10th Street, and like Andros, you don't really need a perception roll to notice this. Like, there was a large group of like there were there was like a large group of people tailing you. Like, suddenly, like a lot of like people from like the various stalls and stuff like stopped bartering, and they started, like, you know, walking away in the same direction as the carriage.
Tough guy finger
And-
snapping intensifies.
And like, yeah, basically there was there was there was like a large presence of people following you the whole time that you were on 10th Street.
This is our town, scrub. Yeah, beat it!
Oh my god. Yeah, I've It's very Saturday morning cartoon vibe. Jesus, yeah.
I mean, it's Ravnica. Ravnica is a Saturday morning cartoon vibe.
Yeah, actually, you're not
Scene
wrong.
triple.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So yeah, you guys like make your way away from that kind of gathering, and eventually, like as the roofs kind of like taper off, and it's like eventually it's just like kind of like open road for a little bit, and not like market stalls and things like that. You see like apparently like at some point like Andros, you cross like some sort of invisible line, kind of, that the group that was following doesn't seem to cross. Like they kind of like give the carriage convoy some lingering looks and kind of like fall back into the fall back onto Tin Street. And it seems that whatever kind of kerfuffle might have taken place there has successfully been avoided for now. So yeah, after that, the open road kind of opens up into buildings once again, but the sky over. Hold on a second. The sky over Precinct 4 is definitely not as nice as the clear blue skies from earlier in Precinct
Where on
3.
this map was the actual like attack?
So roughly about like,
oh wow, close to Nivix then.
Yeah.
Huh. No wonder the fire mine wants to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah. And could you like, would it be a hassle to mark off like the size of the destruction?
No, I could do that. I could give an estimate.
And we're coming in from this way.
If we're coming from Precinct 3, we'd be coming from this way.
This is 10th Street, though.
Yeah, I was going to mention that 10th Street's far to the west of Precinct 3 and 4.
I mean, it could have been the Transguild Promenade.
Sweating. Sorry. Yeah, my bad, guys. I need to familiarize myself
most of the overland highways in Ravnica are bad like that, so it's fine.
Okay.
There isn't really a safe passage, and all of the like borders of the districts are full of like toughs, for want of a better word.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of in a way retroactive, but like you didn't necessarily need to be 10th Street for there to be like
10th Street-esque activities. Certainly.
Yeah.
But also, just saying, Precinct 2 is right here.
Oh.
I don't think so.
Is it not?
No,
I thought Precinct 2 was right on 10th Street that led into Precinct 4.
Hold on, I gotta look at the full map again. No, Precinct 2 is in the southeast corner.
Is it? I'm a dingus then.
Well, it just seemed most appropriate that their kerfuffle on 10th Street was foiled.
Point being, high road, nonsense, hello destruction.
Yeah.
I still want to see how big the actual like rubbling was.
Right. So let's say
then what is up here? This is like District Precinct 5? This is like the Zonot and stuff?
Precinct 5 is to the west. Precinct 4 kind of exists on the north edge of District 10, so...
Okay. Whoa!
Yeah.
Multiple square miles. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, big grid.
Oof.
Must be something serious to pull the guilds together for once on something.
Big stuff. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. I was expecting like I'm gonna be real honest with you, Shay. I was expecting like that, which still would have been significant.
It would have been, yeah.
Wow. Okay. This
But-
is a big deal.
It was an incalculable
Yeah.
loss of life, basically, like an actual disaster.
Okay.
And
Did
so,
Gruul have a fucking worm?
it was reported.
Crap
What's
tons
up?
of people were dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was reported that like that there was at least one worm amongst the
I
fighting.
would. Okay. You would almost have to have a Ravager worm to do that much. Anyway. Sorry. I'm nerding out super hard. I shouldn't be.
No, that's okay. When I'm a dingus, I need other people to not be dinguses and correct me. So thank you.
Hey, Ravnica's one of my favorite settings, and even I don't know as much as Vader apparently, so we're good.
I just have the book open, so
Smart boy.
Smart.
There was actually a time to where I was like writing just for a Discord server as part of like short, funny story versions of what happens in a block. I remember one of the funniest. I remember one of the things that got everyone was just when I ended one of them with, and Jay said he was a pirate.
Yep. So we come upon this destruction. Like this was 10 days ago. So with that amount of
There's, like,
distance, that was
construction
basically
crews.
no sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. There's probably still smoke.
In some places you can see smoke, though generally the sky above precinct 4 is already like very like smoggy kind
Fair.
of and very
That is fair.
dark. There's still like smoke pillars coming out from various places in the precinct.
I'm gonna have the carriage bro like stop like on this side of Sunholm.
Okay.
Like he has done his duty. He doesn't need to get any closer to that shit.
Yeah, you could see like the whole time while you guys were navigating down 10th Street, he was like sweating buckets, and or like 10th Street-esque, 10th Street adjacent street. And he's like, now that you guys made your way into precinct 4, like he's like sweating even more. So when you kind of give him the order to stop, he's like he like literally sighs in relief. He's like, is that, will that be all, Aresta?
Take the promenade back. It's safer.
Yes. I suppose I will have to.
I'll write him another like citation, and this time it's the like, how do I put this? The Mr. Incredible, here's how you get around the insurance thing.
Oh, okay. I see.
Like slip that to him, give him a nod.
He nods, and like he actually like, you know, he smiles. He's like, thank you very much, Arresto. What is your name, if you don't mind me asking?
She recites her badge number.
He like nods fervently, and he's like, yes, I will remember that. Please have a safe passage through the 4th precinct. Have a good day. And
Yeah.
he lets everyone off, kind of. And then like once everyone has made their way off, he like begins like turning the horses around and heading back onto a different road, heading towards the Transguild Promenade.
Yeah.
And so now you guys are on the border, essentially, of Sunhome and the Red Wastes. So you can see, like, you can see like you make your way off of the promenade via like the kind of like various like steps for citizen traffic that lead off, and like you immediately like you can see like lots of like you know how when you enter like a police district, like you can see like the buildings, like you know they look a certain way and everything seems very like uh official, in comparison to precinct 2 where it was like very like regal architecture and stuff. This seems more like, okay, you know, this is the precinct office, or like, oh, um this is like the
Very Spartan, very utilitarian.
yeah, like beat cop kind of buildings. And like you could even hear sometimes like pretty distantly like the yells of like, you know, drill sergeants and stuff like that. Like this, like on one side of you that's definitely, it sounds like Sunhome, and Andros, like you kind of feel like you're at home for a second.
Nothing beats the sound of marching in screams.
And
Sorry.
oh, no worries. On the other hand, on the other side of you, you can see like, you know, there's like what seems like a far distance down the street where there's like, you know, the garrison buildings and stuff like that. On the far side of you, you can see there's like a visible like wall kind of made of like reinforced brick and like strong like materials, like that's just like blocking off like a certain portion of the district. And like you you all can kind of like figure out just by inferring that like, yeah, beyond this is probably the Rumble Belt.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is there any way to know, without going out into the belt, which clans were affected by the raid?
Which clans were affected by the raid?
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think that calls for. Yeah, that does call for a check, but which one it would?
Well, so close to
matter.
Nivix, probably mostly the Izzet, right?
No, not the guilds.
Oh, clans.
The internal Gruul clans.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Would people really, in general, know what Gruul clans were even around? Like Gruul, maybe?
No.
Azorius and Boros, specifically Boros, deal with them enough that
Yeah.
they know some of the markings.
That's what I was thinking.
So if you want, Andros and Clarissa, though your DC is going to be a little bit higher.
That's fine.
I'm
I'm not asking to know what clans were involved. I'm asking where to get that information.
Oh, well, you could go straight into Sunhome if you wanted to.
Oh, so Sunhome would know.
Yep.
Well, that's where I'm going then.
I was going to say, with all the dead Gruul, I'm sure there were plenty of markings.
I'm just guiding my horse straight into Sunhome. Hawkey said something. I don't know what he said.
Yeah, sorry. Could you repeat
I
that?
just go with you. They know me there.
Right.
They probably know
So-
me there, but valid.
Okay. So, yeah. If you guys want, you could go straight into Sunhome. Or if
Yeah.
you wanted to, you could also make a check to figure it out on your own.
Staying with
I
the
think-
authority figures.
Yeah,
I'll
gotta
figure
follow
it
along.
out first before going to Sunhome, because I mean I'm going to be looking over the rubble anyway.
Sorry, could you repeat that last part, Hawk?
I said I'm going to do a check regardless, because I mean I'm going to be looking over the rubble anyway before we actually left, like not actually
Right.
in, but just seeing if I could see anything just from where we are.
Just
Yeah.
like a cursory look.
That's
Yeah.
fair. I'll be doing the same.
Okay. So then, yeah, I would say instead of what I was planning, you guys can make some perception checks.
Sounds good to me.
So yeah, Andros, you actually you heard from your buddies in Sunhome kind of like how things kind of went down. There was a lot. There was a serious um parade kind of that just kind of like suddenly rushed down the street, and there were buildings like collapsing on the way. um and like after everything like happened, like there were people that kind of had to bring back corpses and stuff like that and clean up. And you looked in with like, and you probably like at some point you probably looked in with like forensics investigation or something like that, and you figured and you saw like, okay, so the greater majority of the clans that were affected were probably there's I'm trying to remember the which names correspond to which groups. I'm pretty sure Zurta is the ones that like cooperate with like the old ways.
Most of them cooperate with the old ways.
Yes, that's true.
Zertar clan are the most religious of the group,
Mm-hmm.
and they primarily practice the old ways, and they even worship the gods of the deep earth, and they're even the group that worship the raised boar.
Yeah, they advocate an extreme interpretation of the old ways.
Yeah. So basically, there was a combination of 3 different clans. There was a good amount of them that were obviously Burning Tree, which is the largest faction. There were Zurta amongst the raiders, which is like, you figure that it's probably commonplace here in Precinct 4, since like, they're very much a kind of reclaim industry and go back to nature kind of clan. They're the extremists. So you can figure like probably if there was like a direct if there was direction inside the Gruul clan to perform the raid, it was probably either instigated or especially encouraged by Zurta.
Okay.
Okay,
So
Zorta. Oh, go ahead.
Zorta, Burning Tree, and who was the third one?
The third one was Bolrak.
Bolrak. Okay.
And that was basically Bolrak clan is basically made up of all of the kind of the biggest or like some of the biggest members of the Gruul clan, like all the ogres, the giants,
right?
And like they were responsible for a lot of the toppling of major buildings and infrastructure.
You said it was confirmed that they did have at least one raised worm with them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For something completely different, forgive me, is Casimir wearing a hood? Let me rephrase that. Does Casimir have a hood on his clothes?
Oh, I'm sure he does.
Okay. As we're going into Sunhome, I'm gonna message Casimir, because I can do that subtly, and just say, draw your hood and hide your signet.
And yeah, he'll just casually...
I mean, that's a valid thing. The Boros are not a huge fan of the Orzhov.
Nope.
Oh yeah, I mean he knows that. He was probably in the process of doing that anyway.
Like Simic, Selesnya, Boros, and Azorius, we can kind of walk into Sunhome, but if we have an Orzhov with us, then the Angels are going to be like, what are you 5 up to? Like, we can't have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he draws his hood really well and covers up all the insignia, which is really easy to do.
And yeah, I'm an arrestor. I'm just gonna walk in, and I'm gonna go to wherever I need to go to like talk to like.
Well, just remember, if someone finds you from the Theater of Integrity,
I think like yeah, immediately like you see like Sunholm, it's not just a singular
Right.
hall, it's like it's composed of multiple different buildings.
It's like the Vatican.
Kind of, in a way. There's like lots of like miniature kind of
Yeah, like I'm assuming there's some place that I would go to if I was here on official business.
Mhm.
I want to go
So
there.
yeah. So like you see like you see like a little ways into the kind of grounds of Boros. There's like a barracks kind of deal. But immediately like before you can get there, there's like a kind of checkpoint kind of area,
Yeah.
and you see like two like Boros guards, one's in the booth and one's like outside, and he's like, he raises a hand up, he stops you, he's like,
Yeah. Pull my badge out, show
Maybe-
it, you know.
yeah, and like you go through the works and stuff with him, and he like
One thing
lets
though,
you
when he asks me who I'm with, I do not say Casimir's name. I refer to him as Law Mage. I'm just gonna pull a random name out here, and I apologize. Probably like Law Mage, like Dawnfeather or something.
Okay. Not like a very public face
No,
or whatever, right?
no.
Like just
I'm
like
not.
some
I'm not gonna be like it's the vice president, but I'm just. It's somebody that like this guy is not paid enough to care, and I'm gonna make it seem like it's just he's hiding his face because he's important, like that type of thing.
Is like yeah. So like I think like he waves you through kind of like over his shoulder, and he like nods.
Now that being said, Andros and Scylla, like, Clarissa just straight up fucking lied to him. Like, just straight up. Like, but
yeah, I think Sylvestra like kind of like notably stays silent through the whole thing. Like she's kind of doing an don't ask, don't tell kind of thing. But yeah, if there's no like interruptions, the four of you
five.
make it five. Yes, 5. Because I forgot to count Celeste Newman. The 5 of us make our way in. The 5 of you make your way into Sunholm's barracks,
Cool.
like structure, and like you see, like there are branches that lead off probably to like actual like military offices and stuff like that, but like there's kind of like a central kind of foyer in the building that has a reception desk.
Perfect.
Essentially. And yeah, you see like a fairly young human man standing at the desk, and he nods to you all as you enter, and he's like, good day, ladies and gentlemen. What may I do for you?
A strange request. Direct from the Senate?
Direct from the Senate. Let's like he kind of like he frowns a little bit, but he's like, all right. What are you looking into, a case or a case number?
I don't know the number, but you can see the smoke from here.
And he's like, oh, like immediately, like he like understanding dawns on his face, and like
just
it kind of like goes grim. Yeah.
calmly like sets her badge like on the window in front of him, and she says,
I need all the information you can give me about the clans that were involved, as well as the protocols for contacting them.
For contacting them.
Preferably
like,
without getting attacked. Yes.
like he kind of like he'll kind of like hesitantly gives like your group like a look, like a very like nervous look, but like he kind of then he kind of like shuffles away for a moment and he starts looking through some folders in the back of his booth, and eventually he comes with like what seems like a pretty like thin red folder. You aren't immediately able to make out what's written on the front, but there seems to be like, you know, the standard like Boros stamps and stuff like that, and you can tell that it's probably a dossier for contact information.
Right.
And like he leafs his way through it, but leafs his way through it would kind of be an overstatement. There's about like 3 pages
Right.
inside the dossier,
Right.
and like he eventually like holds a finger on the last one, and like he makes his way down, and he's like, well, there are very few contacts that we have in the rubble belts that haven't, well, so
I would rather not have a siege giant throw boulders at the law mage standing right here. Find something, cadet!
like, okay, he's like immediately more frantically looking down the last page, and he's like, okay, here, we do, like, he notably lowers his voice, and he's like, there is a contact that we do have. He naturally does not go by his name, but essentially we managed to get him christened into the Gruul clans, and he does grant us some deal of information regarding the
Can he
various
arrange an
goings
audience
on
with the burning tree?
with the burning tree. I suppose the burning tree would be the best luck you'd have with finding someone that would talk with you. I think we could possibly arrange that.
Then why are you still standing here?
Like he looks at you confused for a second.
Like,
he's
steps
not
to
sure
the
what
side
to do.
and like nods toward the Loxodon behind me.
And like he looks up at Andros, and he's like, his eyebrows kind of raise, and he's like, yes, right away. And like and like there's like a door at the back of his booth, and he immediately, like, you know, he goes back in through and starts like, and kind of like runs back further into the barracks.
Right. Grabs the badge, puts it back on her belt, turns around, and like faces the group. And just like, now that we have like nobody around us immediately, she just goes,
All right, ask your questions.
There's always steamrolled into place, has been my experience, and I see that hasn't changed.
she glances at Scylla.
Oh, what are you looking at me for? You seem to have things under control.
Just surprised you're not curious.
Why only inquire about the Gruul clans? Why not ask about the Rakdos as well?
Because the Rakdos would admit to wrongdoing and setting a trap even if they didn't do it. But you saw those pictures. The Gruul suffered losses, which means they're going to be licking their wounds, which means they're going to light a fire in themselves to try to figure out why. And if they were betrayed, they're more likely to tell us.
kinds of hold back and perplexed eye. Yes, I know this, but we don't want to tip our hand. We're investigating just one lead.
You are very correct in that. But I do not believe a single cadet, or anyone in the Gruul clans, will go speaking to the Syndicate or the Senate.
Yes, but that's assuming that they're the only players in the game.
I will be more subtle with less obvious means. Advocist. Present company excluded, both of these groups respond to force most of all.
Like, Sylvester nods and she's like, in my experience, there are generally channels that you have to go through with other guilds, whereas with Boros and Gruul, it is very much a matter of your conviction.
Besides, if I make the cadet's life more difficult, he's less likely to ask questions and less likely to remember us, which I don't think any of us want, with the possible exception of the sergeant.
Oh, don't worry, they all know me here. They all know of my love of. Quick pause, like if anyone's like, please, no, or something.
Yeah.
Celestian Smoke leave.
Like Sylvester raises a brow.
Love of what? Like, or did I
Sorry?
miss that? Yeah, Honky trot off with my love of, and he didn't say what it was.
Oh, okay. Trying to see, because I'm assuming the group at this point figures I would be saying justice, so I was just seeing if anyone in the group went like,
Oh,
No.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, so if you're fixing to say justice, can I make a roll to grab his trunk?
Well, that's why I wanted to see. Does anyone want to respond to me trying to say that?
I mean, yes, my response is to grab your trunk and stuff it in your mouth.
Okay. I mean, are you
Yes.
going to go through with that?
Yes. Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, yes, I'm going to be trying to say it. So, like, what do I roll to try and not?
All right. I mean, I would say, Kit's trying to make athletics, right? So I
Sure.
would say you probably. Are you like trying to dodge out of the way, or are you trying to like push your hand away, Hawk?
I think it'd be like carrying to dodge out of the way. So I'm like, move the trunk.
Okay, so
one of your
acrobatics.
best skills versus one of my best skills. Perfect. Let's do this.
What would it be for me?
Acrobatics. Number to beat is 18. Ha-ha!
Oh shit!
My love of grab trunk, shove in mouth. No.
I think Sylvester like audibly laughs. She's like, "Oh dear."
When you learn to say the word normally, I won't assault you.
You don't understand. That is how the world is supposed to be said normally. For it's supposed to inspire great things in the people who hear it.
All right, a fair argument. However, you're a giant. When you shout, windows shatter.
I would hope so, because they might be windows that do not support it.
Literally, Clarissa makes the meme of like raise finger, open mouth, close mouth, droop finger.
Yeah, just I don't what. Yeah. And I think
And I wanted to run this character.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the enthusiasm. It's actually
I also love the enthusiasm.
And yeah, I think like as like as like you say, like start talking about the windows, like you hear like the kind of you hear the door open from the back, and what seems like a different person walks out.
Cool.
It's not the cadet, but it seems to be kind of um, you could even say like a warrant officer of some sort.
Oh,
like
nice.
You could tell that this is like kind of like the person in charge of
like equivalent to me, yeah.
Yeah, in charge of the front desk and like all of the barracks, and he kind of like adjusts like a belt, and you can see like there are like some badges dotted on it. Like you can see that like he's kind of got to wear his decorated thing, and he comes to the window and he's like looks over the group of you and he says, uh, "So am I to understand that the present company here is looking to investigate one of our contacts in the Red Wastes?"
Nothing per se. Just need to set up a meeting.
Well, I'm glad you decided to go through the proper channels. It's not often that we get an arrestor stepping directly into Sunhome, but considering the recent events, we do have a sort of shared interest. So I've already contacted someone who will send a message into the Red Wastes. Unfortunately, it won't make our way to the contact for at least a few hours, so I wouldn't make your way in past the border of the Rubble Belt in the north, at least until then. Please, if you could, try to keep this matter discreet. Don't go causing any noise there, or shit's gonna come down on my head, and I'm gonna make sure that it comes down on yours, Azorius or not.
I feel like when the warrant officer says "don't make any noise there," like the entire group just turns to look at Orta Andros.
At the very least, Sylvester does. And yeah, he kind of like he kind of like squints for a moment, and he's like, "Sergeant Dondros," or no, it would be Sergeant Efu, or yeah.
You know what? You know what they say? Efu and his money are soon parted.
God fucking damn it! God fucking damn it!
Well, you know they also just may pity a fool.
Oh my fucking god! I'm mad.
His clan is known for being the first one into the fray, because you know what they say: Efus rush in.
God.
I'm just jealous because of all the justice I dispense.
Yup.
And yeah, I think he says, "Sergeant Efu." Well, if you're accompanying them, I would just as quickly say, don't make an embarrassment of yourself. And you like see like he kind of gives you like a measured look, like, you know, like I know the kind of shit that you usually do. Try to rein it in.
Oh, you punch a horse one time and they never let you hear the end of it.
If you punch my horse, I'll have you arrested on the spot.
The horse was stealing water.
We don't want another court-martial, Sergeant Efu, please.
Hey, I was found innocent.
he narrows his eyes and like he like he recites like basically all right, uh when you do end up heading to the rubble belt, ask for Garrock. He goes by that name nowadays, and he should be able to get you a meeting with someone in the burning tree.
It's appreciated. In the meantime, while we wait for your contact to clear the way, might I trouble you for all of the information on the recent incident? But not you, obviously, the boy.
he like he nods slowly and he's like, well, then if you do need anything, make sure to let him know. He'll come to me. Warrant officer Gilbert.
Gilbert, nice.
Yeah.
The cadet is Cadet Sullivan.
Totally. He nods and he basically makes his way into the back. You hear like a kind of bark before the door closes, and like immediately like you hear the sound of like footsteps rushing back out, and the cadet like walks out and like he starts explaining like the details of the incident. And I think as like basically it's like as you guys have been debriefed on before, like the amount they tell you, the amount of debt, they
I
tell you
wanted
the
the
amount of
paperwork.
destruction. The specific paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think like yeah, in addition to explaining it to you, he also pulls out like
Awesome.
several dossiers from inside the booth and he like puts them in front. He starts reading them out. He slides a couple through the barrier over to you, like the information
Right.
that like directly like concerns and like is accessible to Azorius people, to Azorius Resters. And like he eventually, as like the explanation winds down, he says, uh, but between you and me, may I permission to speak off the record, Arrestor?
Casually, as if she's not hanging on his every word, like leafing through the dossier, she says, like not giving him conclusive yes or no.
Like he hesitates for a moment, seeing your gesture, but then like speaks anyways. I don't think it's as simple as a gruel raid. I think that...
like glances up, adjusts the helmet, slowly takes out the citation book.
What makes you think that?
Well, a couple friends of mine were out there when boots hit the ground, so to speak.
Are they alive?
And one of them is.
Then I suggest you stop talking and give me a name. Don't want to implicate yourself, cadet.
Well, he looks like solidly at all of you. Like for a moment his eyes linger on Sylvestra, and she like kind of like seems confused for a moment, but then he looks back to you and he says, well, I think you've already been introduced to him. His name that he goes by now is Garrock.
And I think
we're gonna end the session off on
good
that.
one. Good one. Totally. Oh, this is an interesting story, dude. Straight up.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'm glad you guys like it. I very much like GMing it for you.
Let's do some shout outs, shall we?
Hell yeah. Can you start us off, Hawk?
Hello, everyone. I am the Intangible Hawk. I do some art, do some programming, play some video games. You can find me here on Twitch by Intangible Hawk or on Kit's server under the same name.
Tonight, Hawk was playing our incorrigible justice lover, Andros, and we look forward to seeing him next session. Sir Squeaky, could you throw me a shout out?
I am Sir Squeaky, member of his community, and actually a stagehand now. I help keep the community updated on gaming and entertainment news and other things the Masquerade might find of interest. So if you have anything you would like to be updated on or share with the rest of the community on the Discord, please join us there and give me a shout out.
All right. Thank you for playing tonight, Squeakies. Tonight, Squeaky was playing our wise and intrepid advocist from the Ordjob, who might not be all he seems. And if you could, Journeyman Vader, give us a shout out, please.
Hello, everyone. I am the Dream Invader. I am a moderator on Kit's Discord and Twitch, and a streamer on Twitch myself. You can find me over on Kit's Discord on Twitch at twitch.tv/DreamInvader or on Twitter at VaderSidious. I hope to get you around.
Dope. Tonight, Vader was playing our laconic but wise beyond her years Simic Guardian. And I am excited to see what happens next session regarding that. I guess I should shout out myself before we move on to our last shout out. So I am Say It in Blue. I am a keeper on Kit's Twitch and Discord, and I am a general lover of all things tabletop and all things related to storytelling and all mediums, but especially tabletop role playing because it makes for an absolutely wonderful time doing collaborative storytelling and having the time of your life with people playing playing out a story behind each other's minds.
Did you have fun tonight, Say?
Absolutely. Jamming for all of you guys was an absolute treat, and I'm honestly super glad to be back doing it again.
For my part, as ever, I am the sharp-eyed Kitsune, the teller of tales and the weaver of mysteries, the masked bard. This is a channel that is devoted to lore and storytelling, world-building, role-playing, and discussions of those things. So if that's to your fancy, you're in excellent company here, and I do hope that you enjoyed your time with us. I stream every single day that my health permits me to do so, and we're rolling with advantage in 2021 and beyond, which is 2 chances to catch a given stream. You just watched Open Dice Night, a special event that takes place every month right here on the channel, showcasing new GMs, new systems, and new players to the forefront. Say It in Blue is sponsoring a D&D 5th Edition Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica short story this month on Monday evenings called The City That Never Sleeps. We do one of these every month, and every month has a sponsor in 2021. Tomorrow, I will be back with hopefully a double stream with our reshoot of Final Fantasy 15 in the afternoon and the return of me being in the GM chair with Dice-Icive Action Crown of Fangs, our weekly D&D 5-point Fox edition of a module playthrough of Tomb of Annihilation with my own spin on things. Stop by if you like tabletop role-playing games, or if you don't know if you like tabletop role-playing games. We'd love to have you. For now, I need to get out of here, but as always, it's time to leave you with these parting words. From myself, my keepers, and those joining me on the stage this evening, to all of you, the regulars, the followers, the newcomers, and the lurkers. Whether you're just having a seat by the fire or you've got a running tab at the bar, remember, there's always more stories to tell. And hopefully, I'll see you all next time as we get back into the city that never sleeps with a new chapter. Good night, you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hope to see you again soon.